Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and that's Rez. This is Comic Book Roundtable. Right on. So we're gonna talk some comics. We didn't flip a coin. I always say we flip a coin. We didn't flip a coin. We're just gonna talk DC right off the bat because we want to talk Flintstones. Because before I turned the button on, that's what we were doing. We were talking Flintstones. So Flintstones issue number 8. My first issue. I keep hearing you guys talk about how awesome this book is. So I figured, you know what, I got to get on this book. I'm missing something. Read this issue. Without doubt, I have been, missing something. If any other issues, anything like this, I am clearly missing out on, I have been missing out on some great stuff. So, so this issue has to do with economics, really, right? But, so they kind of explain economics in class to Pebbles and whatnot. And then we kind of get how economics affected the whole hunter-gatherer and that whole dynamic and stuff, which I thought was really interesting. Also, because we get kind of Wilma's take on the fact that she used to be part of a hunting-gathering group, became farmers, and kind of how economics created a situation that she basically had to run away from. So, which I thought was really intriguing too. I have a question, because you've been reading this. Is the whole war with the lizard, what are they called? Lizard men? What are they called?
Lizard people.
Lizard people. Now, the war with the lizard people, is that something that's kind of been toyed with all the way through the comic? What's his name? The Cro-Magnon guy is like always wanting to build up to fight these guys. Is that?
That actually, I noticed that was a few issues. But it's I guess they've done it in a way where it didn't seem like you have to go back and read other issues to kind of follow it. It's pretty much, again, like a one shot or one off kind of
right.
I guess encounter with that one guy, the mayor now.
Yes, Claude, right?
Yeah, Klon or something. I know it was like Kron or something. Yeah. Very simplistic.
Right. He's all about the warring and whatnot. No, I was just curious. If that was something that by no means reading this issue I felt, oh my gosh, I'm missing something. I mean, clearly there's enough in there. I was just curious if that's something that's kind of been hinted at all the way along, that they're, that he's, wants to be at war with the lizard people. Whoever the heck they are, kind of a thing. So.
I know, right? Did you see the pictures they were showing of the lizard people with like lizards attached to their heads? And I was like, okay, what's going on? Are they actual lizard people?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out too. I'm like, okay, do they actually have lizard heads? I mean, because the one picture we see of them, they're all basking on the rocks, like lizards do, right?
Yeah.
Out there basking on the rocks.
Yeah. That's why I was like, oh, look, what's going on here? Like, are they actual like lizard hybrid people or?
Yeah. Or are they even real people? I mean, that's the other thing. Are they just some fictitious thing that they're supposedly going to go to war with or whatever?
Well, you know what? They were showing, too, the fact how politics work here, too, and the fundamentals of how budgeting and finance and stuff like that work. So doesn't it kind of make you feel like, well, this could be fictitious? And this is how a lot of politicians work. They use fictitious storylines to kind of get over on the people so that they can up certain budgetary constraints and stuff.
Sure, build up whatever they want
to. That is very indicative. Yeah, so this could be very indicative of what's happening today, how things are being put out in the media that may not be true, just so that other things can be done behind closed doors to, I guess, funnel money certain places. So I really, really like that part as well. Because again, whenever I read Flintstones, it is very, very reflective of what we're going through right now in politics and economics and society. And I just can't get enough of this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just very passionate about it.
It's awesome. One thing I want to say, I love the art. Of course, Steve Pugh. I'm a fan of his anyway. I really like the style. This isn't exactly some of the stuff I've seen him do in the past. So he's done something a little different to create a style for the Flintstones. I feel like, which I think is really interesting. Big kudos to Chris Chuck. Is it Chakri, the colorist? One of the things I thought was what I really liked about it is they color the comic in 3 different ways. There's kind of like this kind of remembering Wilma's past, which the colors are a little bit muted, but so it's kind of like a foggy memory of what used to go on in the past, kind of a thing. And then you get, while they're, of course, then you have the regular, what's going on in the regular comic is the nice bright colors that we're used to in a comic book. And then you get, when they're in school, and they're being taught economics. It's like if you were seeing like an old black and white, right? Like if it was a black and white slide or a movie from the 50s, so 3 different coloring techniques depending on, foggy memories of the past, film of what, of how things are working, plus the current time and whatnot. So I think all those things lend very quickly to, for you to understand what's going on as far as where are we at in time, where are we at in the comic and whatnot, which I think is all great too. And then there's this great moment, and I thought in here that was really interesting, where clearly Fred's kind of a thinker. The cartoon, he's kind of he's kind of the biggest dummy of the group. I mean, at least as I remember the old Flintstone cartoon. In this, he's kind of like, he's this guy. He's been through war. He's experienced all that stuff. And in this, he's kind of commenting on the fact that, look, it's time for us to change the most important thing we've learned how to procreate. We have no problem procreating. We're making all the babies. Now the next important thing for us to do as a species is to protect those kids. And he's kind of implying the way we should protect those kids is by maintaining this hospital. Let's keep this hospital so our kids stay healthy and whatnot. And no, of course, nobody listens to him. They all, the men are all like, forget that. Let's go to war. let's buy more, war machine and armor and all that stuff. What I thought was interesting, he gives this kind of little speech, and he's clearly just kind of, he's the crazy guy off in left field that's actually really thinking about it, kind of thing. So, yeah. I'm curious. Like I said, I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
How long do you think they can maintain this?
Honestly,
because each issue seems to kind of really touch on some sort of cornerstone of our society, whether it's marriage, this one's economics, different, relationships, all those different kinds of things that happen throughout this book and whatnot. Do you think they can? I mean, we're 8 issues in. Do you think they can keep doing this? I mean, I'm loving it. It can go on forever as far as I'm concerned. But how?
I'm really honest. What do you think the longevity would be? I feel like, honestly, like reading it and how they're touching on things so poignantly and so I guess so masterfully, I feel like this could definitely go on as ongoing for like up to 20 plus issues. Like it really feels like they can touch on a lot of stuff. Again, I mean, they touched on gay marriage in one issue that I love that one. They touched on the economics thing, the political election kind of thing, where that one mayor got elected. I mean, they're just touching on war, and how war displaces people afterwards, and how people react to their time in war, which I can identify with. So just so much things about this title that I find that it doesn't seem like it's slowing down in any way. It seems like it's propelling forward, and I would hate for it to stop at just like 10 issues or so. I want to see it keep going. I think that Russell's writing is brilliant. I mean, and it's so refreshing. Don't you feel like it's like taking a nice bite of cucumber. I mean, it's so refreshing and so delightful. And I mean, honestly, I'm telling you, I don't want it to stop. So maybe that's just me being selfish, but
oh no,
so I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic.
This one issue alone, I'm like I said, I'm deeply impressed. It's really smart. It's a smart platform to do it on. I don't really feel like it's being preachy. Like maybe it's.
Yeah, I know, and I said that last week. Remember, I said
that. I don't know. I mean, or it's in my wheelhouse of my politics, so I don't feel like it's being too much. I mean, clearly, if you're offended by gay marriage or those kinds of things, then clearly it is being preachy. I guess, except for this, I didn't really feel like it was saying that. I mean, they kind of tongue-in-cheekily point out at the kind of how economics have created this, the leisure class, and how for some reason we're kind of dumbly. We all think the rich guy is the great guy, even though he's not doing. I mean, so I guess there is some a political slant to it, but it doesn't feel like it's like hitting you on the head with that. It's just kind of a pointing out how the system is working, at least in this issue. Really, really liked it. Love the artwork. Nothing about it I don't like. Kicking myself. Trust me, as soon as I was done reading it, I'm like, damn, why was I not reading this the whole time?
Yeah. There's one thing I don't like about it. There's one thing. It's not long enough. It needs more.
Right. Why isn't this every 2 weeks, right?
I Yeah, yeah. Give me more. Give me. I'm
Yeah,
so greedy. I want more.
yeah, yeah. But it's like I said, super solid. It, I mean, like I said, kicking myself for not having jumped on it. We just saw the announcement of Snagglepuss is going to be coming out. He's a gay Gothic playwright in the 1950s, basically dealing with McCarthyism. Everything about that excites me. It's like, oh my gosh, that's such a cool comic, and to use it and use Snagglepuss in that fashion, I just think it's going to be lots of fun. Gives you a kind of a, I don't know, some level ground to explore all that stuff with and whatnot. And I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that are going to go, oh my gosh, you made Snagglepuss gay. It's completely wrecked my cartoon forever. I can never watch Snagglepuss again. Blah, whatever. Kind of stuff, and whatever. My kids have no idea who Snagglepuss was, right? So
yeah,
I showed them some cartoons of Snagglepuss of him just talking, and they both my kids look at me and go, so this whole him being gay isn't much of a stretch, is it? So like, well, it is what it is, kind of a thing. So I'm excited for that because I think that's going to be an interesting story too. And it sounds to me like it's going to be kind of told in the same way the Flintstones is that it's a serious story. It's not some fluffy thing. We're going to get some real content. So not missing the boat on it. If I get it right off the bat and it's terrible, I'll say it's terrible and I'll drop it. But I'm not gonna I'm not letting it pass me by because Flintstones.
But they had me at Gothic. They had me at Gothic because I'm a little goth chick. I was like, yeah, I'm for it. And then they had gay, and I was like, okay, even better.
Right. So I think it'll be cool. It's just really fascinating that here we got these Hanna-Barbera characters, that these new takes on them, and they're more compelling than a lot of the other comics that are out right now, which to me just is kind of shocking. I was talking with Comics to Comic on Twitter like earlier in the week, or comment the fact that a year ago, if we would have been saying, oh yeah, Hanna-Barbera, that's where the the edgy books are at or whatever, it's like, what? How is that possible? But pretty cool.
I know, exactly. It surprises you, it really does. But you know what? And see how we, honestly, you could tell that you really enjoyed it because we're both just talking about it. Yeah. I love it. It's just so much dialogue it starts, and so you know what? I'm all for it.
Yep, for sure.
Every month.
Right on. Glad I'm on it now. I'm eagerly awaiting that trade. I don't know. They're always so slow to put out trades. DC is, so hopefully it comes soon. If it takes too long, I'll be double dipping. I'll have the trade, but I'll go buy the singles someplace too just to get them. So
I can't wait to hear what your favorite issue is going to be out of that trade because, oh my god, let me tell you.
Yeah. Right. What else do you want to talk DC wise?
Shade.
Right on.
Yeah.
Issue 5.
Yes.
So what do you think?
I really enjoyed this issue. I found it to be just a tad bit weaker. I guess more towards the ending than the previous issues of Shade. But this is one of my top books out of the Young Animal line. And with this, I believe with this issue, we're just seeing the aftermath after Loma, aka Meg, after she and her boyfriend spent the night together in her room, she's pretty much just putting him off, telling him, hey, like, I'm brushing you off, I'm giving you the cold shoulder. Whatever happened between us before, I can't trust you enough to, rely on you in any kind of way. So I'm going to push you as far away as I can. And also Loma kind of regretting taking on this body and this persona that she's now in, because she feels like, well, this person was really hated, and I just, even though I may have been hated in my world, I just can't identify with this girl as much, and the madness, it just not adjusting to where I need it. So we see her kind of, realizing that maybe it was a mistake, her taking and inhabiting this body, as well as we see in the back in her world, we see that Lipuk, her boyfriend or off and on again lover of some sorts, has been captured and is being interrogated fiercely by the director and her assistant to show the Cloak of Madness and where it is and where it's located, and him not really giving her up. So we see kind of like a lot of people that have feelings for each other there, which I found very, very really cool. And again, I find the book has a very melodic way of telling things. So it can just appear as kind of confusing to some, but I think that's where it kind of it gets this magical feeling or it gets this really, really cool sense about itself, like where it just, like I said, seems very lyrical in nature on how it tells a story, and how this madness is interwoven into this world, and when you're wearing this cloak that you can absolutely go insane, it can kill you,
Right. Well, and the whole stuff that's going back on Meta, it's starting to get a little sinister. I mean, the person that's in charge of the defunct, governmental department that used to be in charge of the MetaVest and used to actually do stuff in the Meta. They've been closed down. This guy wants to reinvigorate it, and we don't really know why. He's just more kind of hung up with the vest. You find out, well, in this issue, it's
that's
like,
a girl, right?
Oh, you're right. It is. I'm sorry. You're right. It is. And she is we find out is a bit on the crazy side. I mean, she wants to conquer the universe. She wants to restart the program so you can control the MetaVest, control Meta. And they're like, well, why would you want to control Meta? Who cares about the crazy? I mean, because that's just madness. Why do we want to get involved in that? Because to get to everybody else, you gotta go through madness. So it sounds to me like she wants to build it kind of as a weapon to go out and conquer whatever else. So there's this whole other kind of sinister plot line going on there. The other reveal in this issue, I think, is we find out who this kind of ghosty figure is for sure. That's been kind of cropped up a couple issues ago. And to me, it seems kind of like we've been taking guesses as to who or what that is. It seems to be Megan's spirit or whatever, what's left of her soul. Doesn't quite want to pass over to whatever's next. She's like, screw that. I'm going back to my body. So there's going to be this coming conflict of Loma in Megan's body and Megan going at each other. So you'll be curious to see how that plays on poor Shade, on poor Loma, who is preparing to leave. She attempts to leave Megan's body and go back to Meta, and she finds out she's stuck. She can't find her way home. So, but I do agree with you. This issue, it felt like it was the weakest of what we've read so far. It felt a little light. I mean, I'm still really enjoying it. It just didn't feel like it had quite the drive that some of the others have had. She's kind of brushing everybody off and like you said, trying to make sense of, who can she trust, who can she not trust? This whole emotional roller coaster she's getting, kind of being a human kind of sucks. It's not as perky and cute as the sitcom that she's been watching that she thinks it's all going to be, kind of stuff. So she kind of wants to leave. But I said, I'm still really enjoying the book. And you're right, lyrical is a good way of putting it. Just kind of how you because we're kind of along for the ride mostly with Loma, and so we navigate the story and what's going on through her. So, I don't ever feel like I'm necessarily confused, but it is kind of a swampy sea of emotions and whatnot that we're riding along with her. So it does, have its own kind of, things going on. And it's interesting to see the reactions of the people around her, because of course Teacup is constantly going, "No, you can't trust this girl. This is all a fake." At some point, she's gonna come at you, River, because she keeps warning the new kid because you don't know her, and of course he's all bought into the fact that she's an alien and whatnot. I love at the very end though, she's been laying there all night, and she wakes up, she's like, "Oh crap! Now I'm gonna be even more trouble. I got to figure out how to explain why I didn't do my homework because of course I wasn't planning on being here, so I didn't care." And I'm going to be grounded again for being out walking the dog all night or whatever. So, yeah, all fun stuff.
Yeah,
definitely. Still a really, really good comic. Really, really smart comic for sure.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's see. Talk about. I want to talk Batman. Are you still reading Batman, or did you drop it? You got it. All right.
I knew you got it. We're in sync right now because I swear I had it right in my hand.
Yeah. So I Am Bane, the new arc, kind of the book end to the I Am Suicide, or all that sort of stuff that was going on before that. Brian Finch. It's Brian, right? Finch is back on art.
Yeah.
What?
I thought it was Brian.
Yeah.
I thought it was Brian Finch.
Right. So. First, my criticism, the art always frustrates me. I think Finch does a fine job of drawing some people in costume. I don't think he does that great of a job drawing people out of costume. So there's this whole scene where they're at a fast food restaurant. Fast food restaurant's pretty hilarious because it's like Bat Burger kind of thing. And so it's all a spoof on Batman kind of stuff and whatnot, which of course the whole Wayne family, the whole Bat family's there. At least all the guys are. And of course, Bruce just can't deal with the fact that this is all this, do you want to jokerize your fries? He loses his, but anyway, that whole group of all those white guys sitting around, the only person that you could really know for sure who they were was Duke, because he's not white, and Bruce, because he's a lot bigger than the rest of them. But the rest of them all look an awful lot alike, don't they?
I didn't want to say it now, but
so
they did seem to share a lot of similarities.
Right. And none of these people are related to each other. I mean, that's my problem.
Yeah.
It's like, Bruce has got a profile. He only picks Robins that look like, I don't know. So yeah, not excited, but I'm personally just not excited by there. I think it's Finch's weakest point is his faces and drawing just normal people being normal people. To me, I think is a weak point for him drawing just random stuff. Give him, Gothic cathedrals to draw and people hanging off of gargoyles, and he's fine. But I think this is a weak point. And so a lot of this comic for me, it puts the artist in a place that I don't think he's good at, which I think is somewhat unfortunate because I actually like the dialogue. I like the story that's going on here. I still think Bruce still acts a little weird. But the whole conversation of all the Robins, and they've all been dead at some point or another. And that whole conversation is funny as hell. Yeah, it's funny as hell because they're all talking about the fact, well, I'm going to kill you again, or I'm going to kill you again, because they're kind of joking around with each other and stuff. And then I actually really like Bruce's serious moment where he's kind of like, damn it. You guys are all joking, but as far as they know, Red Robin, Tim, the one black-haired guy that looks like all the rest of these guys, he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as everybody knows, he's dead right now. So kind of this kind of serious moment, which I think would have been better if it would have been drawn by somebody else.
Yeah.
So I liked that moment. That was interesting. I like Catwoman. I still don't necessarily like the whole cat and bat thing, but I do like this kind of playing with everybody kind of a thing. They kind of moved her back to being more cat-like, and that she's playing with her prey, kind of a thing, and how she's kind of teasing Batman in this. But other parts of the story elements we've seen a lot of. Him telling everybody to leave town because something bad is going to happen, and of course none of them are going to leave town. So why does he even bother? But what did you think?
I think it was pretty. I guess coming off of reading Flintstones and reading everything else, this seemed kind of boring to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like it was a large part in due to the fact that the illustrations didn't really help me discern who was who. And right. I thought that some of these characters were dead, so that kind of confused me a little bit. And but otherwise, there were some good moments in here, some really, really fun moments. And the moment I saw the whole Bat restaurant and the Joker rising the fries, and then Batman getting so upset, like, what do you mean? He's a terror to society. Right. That was awesome. I love that part. But then when it got to the table, of course, that's where it kind of confused me a little bit. And I think the last part where we had Bruce and Selina, on the rooftop talking, and then he's telling her she should be gone from Gotham, and then I felt like it could have been a little more going on to keep, but I guess it was an all right issue. I just felt like I think the previous issues were a little bit better for me. Mm-hmm. It just didn't read as strong for some reason.
Right. Just the two of them was better than what this was. And I think some of that, because you're not like a huge Batman reader, right, Rez? It's like you've got this large.
I could say I'm not, but then I'm getting a lot of the Batman books.
Right. So so some of that whole them sitting down and having that conversation around the fast food table and whatnot, panders, I think, to some of us big time fanboys that know each one of those characters' history and when they died and how they died and all of that kind of stuff. So I think some of that's there for us, maybe more than newer readers to the Bat mythos kind of thing too. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I thought the conversation around the table was funny. I always think it's funny to watch those because they do act like brothers because the way they pick on each other and whatnot, and some of those stuff was kind of funny and stuff. And I don't dislike the book as much as I liked it, like let's say 8 issues ago, during the Bane stuff and right before the Bane stuff, the book was really making me angry. I still don't feel like, I feel like it's becoming something like it's trying to get its own voice now and whatnot. I'm still not real keen on Batman's characterization, but I like the rest of it. And I am curious to see what happens. I mean, I thought it was pretty, to go back, because we never really, I never got to talk with anybody about it. At the end of the I Am Suicide stuff, they beat Bane, basically. They whoop his ass. And before Batman leaves, Bruce goats him. Bruce basically says his own dialogue back to him. He says his own dialogue back to him. He basically dares him, right? If the guy has any pride at all, and of course Bane's got tons of pride. I mean, he sits on a throne of human skulls and is king of a small country. Clearly the guy's really prideful. Batman basically asked for this to happen. Why would you do that if you're trying, because they need Psycho Pirate to fix to fix Gotham Girl, and they need so many days to do it. And he pretty much stood on Bane's head basically and basically kind of dared him to come and get him. So how could he not expect this to happen? Kind of a silly mistake, I thought, on when I was reading that back in those issues. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you, unless your intent is to bring him to Gotham to fight him again, why would you do that?
I've been reading since issue 1, and I've skipped a few issues in between here and there, but I remember that issue and I thought to myself, like, yeah, he's going them on, so there must be something that's going to go. He's a plan in place. And I have to say that I also been, reading All-Star Batman from the beginning, and just going based off of how Batman is really portrayed in that series, I kind of feel like there may be some kind of overall plan that it's just not really. It's not really showing right now. It's not revealing itself, because in All-Star Batman, his whole intent was to try to get Harvey Dent, across town, so that he can get the serum to kind of, I guess, change Harvey back to Harvey and not really Two-Face.
Right. To sterilize the psychotic side. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sterilize that part. And so, with end that, I think before they went to the Mr. Freeze portion of All-Star, then, of course, it was revealed that Batman had some kind of, grand plan that came and played out just the way he expected. So I kind of feel like reading Batman, it may be the same exact thing.
Well,
just told in a very, very drawn out way.
Right. And now that you said that, that makes sense, because really at the end of the whole I Am Suicide, it looked like that whole thing was coming apart and Bane was going to win everything. And clearly he had this greater plan. He knew exactly how he was going to use the ventriloquist. Because we were all like going, well, why is he there? Of all the characters, why is he there? Because he's the one person that Psycho Pirate can't mess with, because he's got this whole other thing going on with with the hand, So clearly there's a smarter plan that us, the readers, had figured out, or at least me, the dumb reader, had figured out anyway. So yeah, you're right. There probably is some greater reason to have him there. Just right now, it seems really like it was not good planning, but yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Alrighty. Got any other DC books you want to talk about?
Yeah, my final DC book. It is Planet of Apes, Planet of the Apes versus, or either, I guess, in cahoots with Green Lantern, issue number 1.
So how are these two elements playing together?
It's not super congruent. Like, it doesn't feel like it's super gelled together. It seems like it's just thrown. Like we're supposed to, I guess, somehow believe that Sinestro threw this ring somehow over to this new dimension, where, I guess, ancient dimension of Earth, and the ring is now inhabited by this one scientist. Now, I guess we have what is the guy's name? I'm not really familiar with the Green Lantern, so it's gonna be hard trying to describe it, but one of the Green Lanterns somehow tried to follow the ring of the location of where it is and try to obtain it back or find out what's going on, and then he counters Sinestro. But it just feels kind of really not well written for me. It didn't read that well. It just felt kind of like there was moments of transition in here that I just didn't get. Like, for instance, the very beginning where we see this one woman attacked, like right here. I'm guessing that the ring was taken from her by someone here, but it just didn't make sense to me. And maybe it's going to be played out later on in other issues, but it went straight from that, where this woman and several other people are being attacked, to jumping to this ancient planet where this one scientist is, and he's talking to the one female that we always see in Planet Ape movie who can't actually verbalize. She can't verbalize anything. Nova is what she's being called in here.
Right.
And we see her point down to a crater of where this one foreign object came from the sky, and he finds the.
So it's like Cornelius. I mean, is that actually Cornelius?
That's his name. Yeah, Cornelius.
Okay,
that's actually Cornelius. Yes.
And so Cornelius finds the ring. The yellow ring, really?
Yes, he gets the yellow. Yeah, he gets the yellow ring, and so from there we see, what's this guy's name? This Green Lantern. It's not one I've. Gardner.
Oh, Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner. Yeah, the redhead. He's kind of a hothead. Picks fights with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. Okay. Yeah, I think it's Guy Gardner or something. But yeah, he pretty much fights with Sinestro, and from there, somehow Sinestro gets the best of him, and he ends up traveling to that planet, and it kind of ends there. But it was just like a small little introduction to these two very different stories merging together, so that we could see them fight together. But Cornelius is very, very disgruntled because he was approached by these gods of some sort, these super beings, and they were telling him that the ring does not belong to him, that he needs to give it back. And Cornelius goes ape shit. And it does something really erratic, and he's not giving that ring back. That's what I'm just saying. Like, he's not giving it back. But yeah, I mean, it ended better than it started, if that makes sense.
Sure. Well, I wondered how they were going to bring those two franchises together.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. So, what made you think that you wanted to pick that up? You're not really a Green Lantern reader, right?
No, not Green Lantern reader, but the main draw was literally the Planet of the Apes. Yeah. that was the main draw for me. And then Green Lanterns were secondary because I felt like I've read kind of like an Omega Men, which was Tom King's, and I liked that aspect of the Green Lanterns, which is really, I mean, I guess the White Lantern's not really a Green Lantern, right? But kind of.
Well, he's right. Yeah, he's not he was a Green Lantern, but not anymore. Yeah, he's the White Lantern, but the whole Lantern Corps things, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of understand more of the concept of the Green Lantern. So I thought, okay, this would be a good time to jump in. I already have one element that I really enjoy. So maybe jumping into this would give me a better idea of what this whole Green Lantern things is all about, what the hubbub about it is.
Sure.
So, yeah. I'm going to move on. I mean, I'm probably going to definitely pull it up to issue 3, but I think if it doesn't get any better, it's going to be dropped for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those kinds of crossovers, so I never try them out. But I'm always curious to hear about them because I'm always curious about how you take franchises that literally have nothing to do with each other and try to meld them into something. So that's curious. I have a few DC books. I'll talk about a couple real quick. So this is Superman issue number 16, the end of the multiplicity arc, which is a fine kind of Superman romp. We get to see a lot of these alternate Supermans and stuff, which is fun. They kind of showcase some characters that Grant Morrison had created in his multiversity thing that came out last year that I really enjoyed. This whole arc was a lot less personal than what the Superman has been up to this point. So anybody who might be has just recently jumped on it and is wondering, gee, this doesn't sound exactly like what Travis and other people have been talking about, how great the book has been. This has been fine, but it doesn't have the kind of personal connections that the other stuff did, because he's not dealing with his kid. He doesn't deal with John in this. He it doesn't have the father aspects. It doesn't have those kinds of stuff that I think a lot of us have been loving early on, in the book. There's some good moments with he hangs out at the very end of this with the new Superman from China. So that was kind of cool. Them finally had that connection, which is kind of fun. But this was entertaining. At the very end of it,
Hello?
it hints some more at some of the this secret person that's in the background that's kind of been kidnapping people in the DC universe and been doing some stuff. I mean, we see this hooded figure again that in the Detective Comics snatched up Red Robin. So, he's kind of floating around in the Superman book. I'm sure that person's going to come to the forefront when they start this whole, dip back into the Watchmen stuff. How did the rebirth, of the universe happen? When they start crossing back into that again, I'm sure that character is going to crop up in that. So they keep showing him in different places to kind of keep reminding us as readers that this is going to happen, I guess. But no, it was a fine issue.
Yeah.
End of the Nightwing arc. The Bloodhaven arc is okay. Not another one that I'm not super excited about. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Depending on what's next depends on whether or not I hang around on Nightwing. I've kind of had my fill, but I really like the artist that used to be on the book. I'm hoping the next arc that he comes back. If that's the case, I'll ride along to see what's next as far as storytelling. I mean, nothing bad about the book. It just wasn't great, and I'm kind of wanting to start peeling back on some of a lot of the books that I'm reading out of the Rebirth when I started reading all of them. I liked Dick Grayson when it was the Grayson comic better than the Nightwing comic, but still not bad. Not a bad end of the arc. It looks like he's going to be living in Bloodhaven now, so which is fine. I kind of like him being out of Gotham because everybody can't be in Gotham. It just doesn't work. I don't feel like if you're having a shared universe. So him being someplace else that works for me. So we'll see what's next with that. Beating Dead Horses, issue 16 of Green Arrow. This just continues to confirm. I'm kind of glad that I've dropped it. I got one more issue coming to me because of my pre-orders, and then I'll be done with it, I believe. It makes some leaps and bounds story-wise that I feel like there need to be more content in there to make better connections with what's going on in it and whatnot. The Ferrara art is decent in it, but the story itself is not captivating enough, and twice a month it just reminds me how much I'm not enjoying bits and pieces of it. So I continue to be glad that it is on the chopping block. One last DC comic I'll talk about this time around is the Fall and Rise of Captain Atom. This issue isn't quite so blah 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 is how I described the first issue, but still it's pretty narrative driven as far as we see some pictures. And there's lots of narrative boxes that tell us kind of what goes on. We get told that he's in the past and he's trying to figure out whether or not if he does things in the past, if that's going to mess with the timeline in the future. Is he going to make something blow up, quantum, mechanics wise or whatever? And towards the end of this issue, he's no longer Captain Atom because he's gone back in time. But by the end of the issue, he's up into like 2000 or 2007, I think. And he is starting to exhibit signs of being, of having the condition powers, whatever that is Captain Atom. So he's running around knowing about superheroes before superheroes existed technically in the DC universe. So, but this issue is better than last issue. Still not super excited by it though. Even though I do like the character, but not real excited by that. So. One comment here that popped up is from John DeCossi's big Batman fan with me, and he says the latest issue of Batman brought back some vintage Batman and Robin feels. Hey, Travis, which it did. A huge smile on my face, mostly because there was no Bat-Cat bullshit dialogue. See, he doesn't like that dialogue either.
Yeah.
I mean, during that 2-issue arc, I like what they had to say. It's just the whole calling each other Bat and Cat just over and over again felt weird. But. So
I guess the whole union between them sometimes it just feels like out of place sometimes.
Yeah.
Even though
Well,
usually the movies do play them out to be like a couple of some sorts, or
sure. And then they always have been they've been in the comics for a long time. They've been an off and on again couple, and really strongly so in more recent years. But they're dysfunctional, clearly. I mean,
yeah,
how do you have a normal relationship with the lives they live in the first place? So, um, I mean, part of me likes the fact that I don't know. Should we see more of Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne, trying to put on that facade of being being the rich playboy kind of thing, or is it better that we just kind of drop that whole facade and just let him be Batman all the time? Because I mean, it used to be back in the day, you'd have these plot lines where he's trying to kind of almost have a girlfriend, but not really, faking he has a girlfriend or whatever, and while he's out being Batman at night, kind of a thing. So he's usually jerking around some girl who thinks that he might actually be interested in, and he's not, kind of stuff.
yeah.
Is that a missing story element that is missing out of Batman? Because that really hasn't been in Batman since for like the last 5 years. We haven't seen that part of Batman.
I kind of feel like it is. Because it makes you kind of feel like well strives Batman to be Batman. Besides, him trying to stop crime in the streets, but also that duality where he's kind of switching back and forth between the two of Bruce Wayne, and then switching between Batman. So it kind of makes you feel like, okay, well, does Bruce Wayne even exist anymore?
Right.
In this universe?
I mean, he almost doesn't. I mean, in the New 52, he did for a while because, of course, he kind of lost his memory, there towards the end of the New 52, and was just Bruce Wayne because he didn't remember that he was ever Batman, that sort of thing. So we did get a little bit then, but as a whole, that's never a challenge. So you kind of have to wonder, high society, they completely forgotten about Bruce Wayne. I mean, is now he a recluse, kind of a thing, most eligible bachelor Bruce Wayne is some sort of weird recluse because no one ever sees him, kind of a deal. Exactly. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that he doesn't go do that because, I mean, how do you really balance those two? But I think I always thought that was kind of a challenge and made the character interesting also, him having to try and struggle with that. But I don't know. I think about that occasionally as I'm reading these books. It's like and this kind of reminded me of it, this latest issue. We never see Bruce Wayne anymore. He's always Batman. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Any DC type news that we think we need to talk about? I haven't really heard any scuttlebutt or anything like that I haven't looked at advanced solicitations or anything like that to know, oh my gosh, this, other than the Snagglepuss, I haven't really.
There's some new books that came out for the solicits. There's some new, there's a few new titles. The Batman in the Shadow.
Right. And you were asking if I was going to get that. I don't know. Do you remember offhand who's working on the book? Like who's writing it or who's? Is Snyder writing it?
I can look really quickly, but I for sure. I mean, I'm still stuck on whether or not I'm going to get it or not. Let's see, Batman the Shadow. Let's see, Batman.
I like both characters. I mean,
it's Scott Snyder and Steve Orlando. Yeah, so Steve Orlando and Scott Snyder are actually writing it, and Riley Rosmo is the artist.
Oh, Rosmo's doing it. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of his Batman just because he's got the really super short ears and it always looks weird to me. But I'd be curious to see his his version of the Shadow. The whole big black coat.
Would you like the long ears, obviously, right? You like long ear Batman?
Well, I don't think I like Jones's, the super the ears that are like 3 feet tall. That's a little too much.
I love Nosferatu, like a Nosferatu kind of looking Batman. Like my most favorite Batman has been Ted McKeever's Batman.
Right.
The uglier, the older, and the more vampire-ish and long ears that he looks. I'm all for it.
So I will probably get that. I will probably pick that up. And it's a mini, right? I mean, it's not like it's a probably 6 issues or something. So yeah, I will probably pick it up. I like both characters. 6 issues isn't going to break the bank or anything. So, and those are reasonably solid creators. So yeah, I'm sure I'll end up picking that up. I can't imagine that I won't.
And they have some really cool variants. They have Cliff Chang doing one, and they have Tim Sale doing one. And I'm gonna be at both of them because I love
right.
Sale and Cliff Chang.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure I'm gonna get that. So
yeah.
Look,
I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Looking at the comments, Carlos mentions that Superman had a couple of homages to the Crisis on Infinite Earth, which it did, which I thought was really cool too. That was another cool element. They got the whole famous death of Supergirl scene where Superman's hanging onto the draping body. There's a version of that, in there. Except it's not Supergirl. It's another character. So yeah, there were quite a few, which is kind of, it seems like it makes sense. And they're always going to do that when they start doing the multiversity stuff and whatnot. Anytime that stuff comes up, they tend to kind of play on some of those kind of things, which is pretty cool. So anyway, were there other new DC books there in the solicitations?
I saw another one that was coming out. I also too mentioned the Batman, Tom King's Batman seems to have some kind of other new, I guess, event that's happening or something.
The button.
I don't know what's going on with that, but
is
that the button? I didn't know if that was it seemed like it was an event, but it's
a crossover. It's a crossover with the Flash.
A what?
Or is it a number one? Is it a number one, or is that the thing?
Yeah, it's a crossover, but it's a part one. It's gonna be part one. It's gonna be 3 parts to it, so it's gonna be at least 3 issues featuring that. That event, the button, whatever that is.
Well, so, the button is that if you read the DC Rebirth special, that 60-page big thing.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, in that, at one point, Batman's down in the Batcave. The Flash shows up to talk to him, and they find the Watchmen, the comedians, the happy face button with the blood spot on it. They find it in the Batcave, wedged in the wall, wedged in one of the cave walls.
Oh.
And so it's like, ooh, what's that about? Okay. It's been kind of this dangling element. So they're going to go back. And the two of them leave each other in that, going, well, we'll both look into this and we'll get back to each other. And they haven't gotten back to each other. So I'm assuming this crossover, the button thing, which I swore I wasn't going to get this crossover, but I am. I'm going to pick up the stupid Flash issues and read the damn thing. It is going to it's them getting back together again to discuss whatever it is that they've discovered about the button and the whole Watchmen interjection thing, which I'm not excited about whatsoever.
I usually don't like the crossovers, and that's why I skipped that Monsterman one, because I was like, oh no.
Good call.
And that's But you see how because I skipped that, it made me skip a few issues every now and again, because I was like, man, this is not getting really all that great. But then it does hit points where it's really good. I think it was the issue 12 and 13 really good, and then it just went down a little bit, and it just keeps going up. It's a rocky road with Batman.
It's a roller coaster ride. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But that seems to be it. I mean, other than Wildstorm coming back.
Yes.
That I'm way too pumped about it. Like
well, I was excited anyway, and then of course in the back of these, did you notice in the back of this week's issues, there's a whole thing in there, that they've written up talking about what their plan is, the long-term plan of it, the slow release that they're planning on doing, that they're really giving Warren Ellis the ability to really kind of, he's the curator. And he's taking it serious, it sounds like. So, down to they need a symbol and I love all of that. So I was never a huge Wildstorm reader. That most of that, the largest percentage of that material came out during a break when I couldn't afford to collect comics. But I'm curious to see what we're going to get, out of it and stuff. I think it'll be, I'm excited about it too. To see what all that's going to be. So
honestly, I love that they're giving him, they're kind of bringing him back to DC, because wasn't there some kind of contentions between him and DC at one point, which made him leave?
Yeah, he swore he wasn't ever going to work for DC again.
Yeah,
I mean, he was that pissed off about it.
Funny how that works out, doesn't it? But honestly, it's funny because when I was thinking about that after reading the back matter, I also I was thinking to myself about Rob Liefeld and how he used to co-own Image, and how at one point he left, do a lot of poor decisions, and then he eventually got invited back. So this kind of seems to be a thing that happens. Let's 15 years pass, and then.
I think partially with the Warren Ellis thing, he had a blow up with editors was his thing, and so I think some of those people are gone, and he has a working relationship with Jim Lee because he had worked on the Wildstorm stuff in the past, and so I think that's the connection was there, and enough time has passed. I'm sure that you don't stay bitter forever, and
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. I'm curious to see it. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm a big Warren Ellis fan. Pretty much anything he puts out, I'm going to try it pretty much sight unseen, and see what happens.
I'm sitting
So, and I've said it before, but I think that he kind of took a break away from comics for a while, and since he's come back, the stuff that he has done feels re-energized and interesting and stuff again. So. Because I really like the Trees injection. I like some of the stuff he's recently did for Marvel. His relaunching of Moon Knight. We'll get into Karnak because the issue of Karnak came out this week. I liked all that stuff. So it feels like he's energized to do comics again. So I'm excited to see what he might do with some other products. So yeah. I just
wish Peter Milligan would have an energizing moment here, because
yes,
I love Peter Milligan, and for some reason just. Is very low.
Yeah, the stuff has not been. Yeah, it's been. Yeah, unfortunate because like I said, I'm a huge Peter Milligan fan too. Pretty much buy whatever he's selling. But
I do all the time. I do.
It's been some rough moments, as a fan. So, yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, we'll come back out with another second part though.
That's what I heard. That there's gonna be another one, which is cool. I'll pick it up. I'll pick that up. I like the first one fine. So, yeah. Yeah. So we'll move on to quickly talk about some Marvel. I don't know how much you have as far as Marvel type stuff. Marvel?
Oh, I have two.
Oh, right. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk about one.
Okay. I'll start with Old Man Logan.
All right.
So issue 17. So this was a pretty good issue. We still have Logan. These different realities. He doesn't know what is real and what's not. So going back and forth in between. Each one he encounters, every single time he's encountering some kind of obstacle, trying to figure out where exactly this baby this child was taken, that they stole from the was it Bruce Banner gang. And he's trying to find Kang, who he believes has something to do with the abduction of this child. But at the very end of this issue, we have a very big reveal as to what happened to this child, and what's going to happen from there. But it looks like it's going to be some trouble for Mr. Logan now that he's encountered this particular person in the issue. But I really did like seeing that Puck finally kind of helped Logan out, figure out why he was going in and out of these different realities, where one, he's trying to invade the spaceship. Another one was where he was, I think it was in the wastelands, and then another one where he is stuck in a cave somewhere. So I really, really enjoyed seeing all these worlds and how he is trying to fight his way through it and figure out where exactly he is and how he got there and where the child is. But yeah, it's continuing on with the same exact storyline. And then, again, like I said, big reveal as to who is actually doing this to him, and then also reveal as to what happened to that child.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But it was very, very, very good book. I enjoyed it. Like when I read it, I was like, oh my God. I kind of had a feeling it was going that direction. And this is, again, me reading this off and on. I go off and on with this, and I didn't feel lost at all. I felt pretty confident that I knew the story very well. So yeah, I really enjoyed. I think Old Man Logan's a really good book to just jump onto without having to go back and read back issues.
Oh yeah.
It's very, very jump in friendly.
Cool. I've been wondering about that. I like Sarantino's art. The only reason I didn't jump on the book in the first place is because I'm a little leery of Lemire's writing on franchise superhero books. I like his independent work, but lots of times some of the superhero stuff has been kind of flat for me, so I've been kind of avoiding the stuff that's been coming out of his lately. But I keep hearing good stuff. Mike, Sergeant America, he's always talking about how good it is. So that kind of like, well, I bet I clearly need to pick this up in trades as it comes out. I don't know if I want to jump onto it, but
yeah,
everything about it sounds really good. It sounds really interesting. And of course, like I said, I know the art's going to be solid because Sarantino just does a great job of.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they keep Sarantino on it and don't bring back Andrade, then yeah, they're good. Because I hated those. That's why I keep going in and out, because after I experienced those few issues with Andrade, I was like, please don't ever do that again.
Yeah, well, that's kind of corporate comics, right? Because they feel like they need to for sure put out an issue every month. They don't want to skip a month.
Yeah.
But clearly, as the artists need a break at some point, because they're working more than 40 hours a week to get that product out, to us. So what do you how do you do that? You got to find some sort of a artist in between to fill in the holes. Because like I said, they feel like they have to put out, a book, get a title out to keep it consistent, because I think they're afraid they'll lose their viewership, or they're losing money because they're not putting a product out every, month. So they have to do some sort of a decision. It's just, you'd always hope that they pick an artist that's matches up in some way or does something interesting or something, instead of making it tragic.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was laughing at something Johnny said. He said, Marvel, be right back.
Yes. Yeah, DaCosta, he's a big Marvel fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of books, they're supposed to come out once a month, but really haven't. I picked up issue number 6 of Karnak. So I think Karnak probably started, this is issue 6, like I said. Issue number 1, I think, came out in 2015. And I may not be exaggerating. That's how long of a gap there was between this book. First 2 issues came out consistently. Then they had some artist issues or whatever. It took them a lot to get squared back away and whatnot. This issue ends the arc. I enjoyed the comic as a whole. This issue would have had more, the ending of it, I think, would have had more impact and would have meant more to me if it had come out consistently. Like, it's been at least 4, if not 5 months since issue 5 came out. I think I probably should look up the official dates to know for sure, but it sure feels that way. So, how it ends and what Karnak's payment is at the end of this might have been more important to me if I had been reading all the way along. Now, at some point, I will sit down and read through all 6 issues all at once. I'm sure, like I said, it probably reads excellent in a trade. I really liked it. I like the Karnak character. He's a fascinating character. Warren Ellis did kind of a really interesting take on him, and he kind of got philosophical, which I like. I like when a comic can do that, but still keep the cool superhero action scenes in it too, which the book did. But yeah, I mean, I think the amount of time between issues kind of makes the story collapse because it was so long in between. I'm sure people will have a better experience with it reading it all at one time. So
I stopped that series after issue 1.
Yeah.
That was the one. I felt bad because I love Warren Ellis, so I was like, man, I just totally did not give that a try. But I felt like the character was so robotic in nature. He seemed like a one-note character at first in that first issue for me. So I was like, yeah, I'll pass on the other issues.
Right. And I will say this, I'm not saying go and get them or anything, but like in the second issue, third issue, it kind of changes gears, and you get kind of into his mindset, why he's doing what he's doing, his philosophy of life and functioning and whatnot. And you're right, that first issue, he seems a little cardboard, and then of course you get the great violence of him, splitting people in two with his fingers. But beyond that, you're right, there wasn't much in that first that first issue of it. But like I said, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I think the breakdown is just so long. I mean, one issue every 6 months, and it wasn't like it was some masterwork that we got, to warrant that big of a break between issues makes it awfully tough to, to be excited about, I guess. So kind of a failure. So what else did you get? Did you pick up Moon Knight? Is that the book you picked up?
Moon Knight by Jeff Lemire. It's funny because I realized that I get all the Jeff Lemire books across the board.
And here I'm saying, oh no, I don't like those.
Yeah, I know, right? But again, this is another book I jump on and off with. I jump on and off all his superhero books for some reason. But again, I love all his indies a lot better. They have more impact. But anyways, jumping into Moon Knight issue number 11. It's just a continuation on to issue 10, which we are seeing the aftermath after he defeated his other personalities, which was Jake Lockley, Stephen Grant, those other different Moon Knights that we saw in previous Moon Knight, titles that were depicted over the years. And so in this issue, as well as issue 10, we saw where we're seeing flashbacks of before he had met with the god Khonshu, the Egyptian god Khonshu.
Uh-huh.
So we're seeing before that actually took place, we're seeing him relive his life. So after he defeated himself, all his different personalities, now he has to live, like he's going back, and it's like it did a reset or something, and now he's going back and living his life as these different personalities, and we're seeing flashbacks of him when he was in the military, in the Marines, and how he got dishonorably discharged for lying about being a Psych 4 patient at one point. And so because he had a lot of bizarre behavior, like stripping naked and out there in Fallujah, and just standing out in the desert where they were in a minefield, and doing stuff like that, just being really erratic. And so he got dishonorably discharged. Issue 10, we had a moment where his father realized that he had mental issues and sent him off to that psychiatric center. And apparently he was at that psychiatric center for all of his life until he was until adulthood. And so, I didn't know that until this issue. And we see him in the first few panels, in the first few pages, him going home to his father's funeral. And his mother saying, "Oh, well, your father would have liked to see you be all better." And then he starts immediately telling her that he's no longer Mark Spector, he's someone else. And she heard
he's not better. Yeah.
And her getting pissed. And him trying to pretend like, okay, well, no, I am Mark Spector. Sorry, Mom. Yeah. But it's just, this issue wasn't like super jam-packed with some craziness, but we just see him pretty much going in flashbacks of, or going through this new life of the old life, being the various different personalities that he once took on. So I'm still enjoying it. Could I have passed on issue 11? Maybe so, but I think 10 and 11 are pretty good jumping on points. Again, like I said, for the last previous issues, they're good jumping on points.
I hear the book is ending. I thought I saw Lemire talking on Twitter about the book. The book is ending. It wasn't canceled, that they had planned to write X amount of, tell their story, and that they were going to be done, and the book was done.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, I guess if it's ending, then don't jump on. Just wait.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if if it's, if you've gotten that far into the latest solicitations to see if it's still there or not. I had heard that book was ending, and Black Widow was ending. There's a few of them that were ending, and people were like, "Oh, they got canceled." They're like, "No." All the creators were going, "No, these weren't canceled. We knew we were going to tell this much story, and that's what we're, going to tell. And when it's done, we're done." And Marvel's choosing not to, right now anyway, to have somebody else pick up the book and tell, go on with the book. So part of me though wonders when they say that they decide, well, we're not going to have somebody else go on with the book. I wonder how well the book is really selling them, because you think if it was selling like hotcakes, right?
Yeah.
That they would just go, they would renumber it to another number one, right? And start over with new creators on it, not keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and keep it going, not letting it end. But it sounded to me like they're planning on ending it. So I don't know.
Well, it can't be doing any worse than what we see Daredevil, because I mean, I read Daredevil when they had the Muse, that one character You know, I found that to be just as good as writing as I find Moon Knight. Like, I didn't feel anything more superior or lower than. So,
yeah.
and,
Yeah, in the comments, Mikey the Kid is saying that Moon Knight is April 3rd. April is number 13, so it's at least going that far. I couldn't remember what date they, what if they gave a this is the end or not, but it seemed to me like he was having some sort of discussion about the fact that they had a planned ending. So I may be wrong on that, but I'm almost positive. I thought they were saying that there was some sort of a planned ending. So
okay.
I don't know. I don't know if the audience has seen it, but I've lost your video, Rez. I can't see you in video right now. Hear you just fine, but I can't see you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know. Not sure.
Let me know if I pop up.
Okay. So I'm gonna quickly talk a little Hawkeye, issue number 3. This is the hate for Kate escalates. Ooh, look at that alliteration. So issue number 3, I really like this. I like Kate Bishop as a character. I think she was really well established in like the Young Avengers and that sort of thing, with Karen Gillian and Jamie McKevy doing work with her there. And I think that these creators, Kelly Thompson writing and Leonardo Romero on art, have kind of taken that character forward really well. They've got some elements that Matt Fraction used on his run of Hawkeye, and kind of blended that together to make this run of the comic. And I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I like the character. I think she's funny. She's got a great sense of humor about her life and the predicaments that she gets herself into. And this one, she gets chased for a while by these people in masks. She doesn't know what's going on, and your video's back.
Yeah.
And so she finds out that the police are kind of undercover. They're kind of exploring this kind of like weird men's group that's kind of cult-like and whatnot. Towards the end of this, she finds her friend, that this girl that hired her because she'd been stalked by a boyfriend, online and stuff. She finds that client by the end of the issue, and things aren't looking so good. She's in like this house party, and there's some big giant guy that's looks like it's gonna thump her pretty good and whatnot. But like I said, I've just really been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. Happy to have Kate Bishop in her own book and whatnot. So really, really enjoying that. I've had a lot of fun with it. So
I almost jumped on issue number 1, and I don't know. I guess because I felt like it was going to be too close to what Jessica Jones is, and I'm really a big Jessica Jones fan.
Sure.
I didn't want to encroach any kind of territory.
Right.
And it seemed like they were really coming off each other.
Right. And I think I saw a solicitation issue coming up that on the cover, it's got both of them on it. It's got Jessica Jones sitting on Kate's desk, and she's knocked Kate's little sign that says that she's Kate off of it, and it says Jessica on there, and it's like the real private. I mean, there's some. So that should be a fun issue if they have that and whatnot. But yeah, I can see that they might be the same, because they're both kind of doing the same sort of work. They're superheroes, but really they're PIs doing their PI stuff and whatnot. So
yeah. It just seemed like what they do is they have all the women in the Marvel universe, take on the job after they're somewhat, I guess, disgraced or some sort, or when they're on a break, just go ahead and be a PI. I'm like, okay.
You're right. There are a lot of them. Spider-Woman is Jessica Drew. She's a PI. Yeah. Jessica Jones. Kate Bishop. Yeah, there are quite a few of them, aren't there? Wow.
Yeah. I just noticed the trend there. I had to speak on it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I like them though, so I guess whatever. That's funny. And
I may jump on it. I may jump on. I'm being discriminatory right now.
and that's it for my Marvel. That's the only the Marvel books I got this week. Any other Marvel for you? No, you said the 2, right? Right?
Yeah, just
2. Any Marvel news that we need to talk about?
Was there? I was asking earlier on Twitter. Remember, there's quite a few Marvel books that are coming out.
Right.
In particular, that I'm very intrigued by. I know you guys were mentioning the Gold. There's a few Ultimate Uncanny X-Men ones that are coming out as well.
Right.
Another Wolverine, I guess offshoot series that's coming out as well.
Oh. See, I
I
haven't
can't
looked
remember
at.
the name of it,
I
but yeah, it
haven't
seems to
looked.
be-
Yeah, I haven't looked at them yet, but there's quite a few, isn't there? Right? I mean, I know the only one that I know for sure, America. I know that's coming out, and I'm getting that. I'm a huge fan of the Ms. America character, another character that's kind of got her strength, I think, in the Young Justice books. Young Avengers books. So, and quite frankly, even if I wasn't a fan beforehand, have you seen the cover? The cover for
Yeah.
American One, the one that's um the Beyonce off of Formation.
Yeah, I did see that. I was like, I honestly, I really want, I want to dig into it. So I was a little late to add it into my DCBS order. So I had to email them. I'm waiting on them to add it to my order.
Yeah.
But I definitely put in number 2 in my cart.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that cover. I'm like, oh my, nothing else for that cover alone. I thought it was pretty awesome looking cover. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I'm excited by that. I'm definitely getting that. I haven't looked at the rest of the stuff. I always kind of flirt with the Inhuman stuff because I'm kind of curious about the Inhumans. There's something I've always liked since I was, a really young kid. So I always kind of try the Inhuman stuff when it comes out. I know some Inhuman stuff's coming up. I'm not sure on the X-Men stuff. X-Men stuff scares me because there's never just one X-Men title. There's always like 3 X-Men titles, and they all cross over incessantly. And then if there's any event goes on in the Marvel Universe, the X-Men get pulled into it. It's why I kind of avoid the Avenger books too, for the same reason. That's too much, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. So I'm a bit nervous I know like the Gold people, you guys were talking about Gold because Kitty Pryde's in charge of that group of X-Men. A lot of us are fans of her, so I know people are thinking about trying that out. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at them closer. I haven't really, like I said, I really haven't looked at the solicitations yet because for us on Discount Comic Book Service, the new solicitations are just up for us to start ordering. I typically don't start looking at that and ordering my books until towards the end of the month. That way I've got time to read some of my books this month in case I don't like them. I can not order them if that's the case. So I haven't really dug into those solicitations to really get a good look at what all is in there. But it sounds like a lot of, I know there's at some point there's supposed to be a Black Bolt solo book coming up, and Christian Ward is supposed to be doing the art on it.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So I'm kind of excited about it. I really like his art. I mean, I love his art on Odyssey and stuff like that. So I'm inclined to check it out for that, if no other reason. So
yeah. It was so much. It was like I was getting a little overwhelmed with the amount of books that they had that seemed to just actually the past few solicits, they've just been like Kingpin #1, Elektra #1, all these different #1s, and then now it's like this next solicits. It's like an additional 10, 15 titles out as well. Yeah. So to myself, I honestly thought, I was like, you know what? I should probably just jump back onto Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah. And that's a problem with the big two. When they decide they're going to do new books, they seem to always dump a whole bunch on us at once. How do you trial those? I mean, if your budget can survive the hit of trying all those books, I don't know how your time budget reading those books survives that unless you're dropping a bunch of other things to put those on. I mean, at least to me, I'm kind of at the threshold of how much can I, successfully read in a week and enjoy. I mean, I'm sure I could read more books, but it would be just zipping through them as fast as I can and not getting the full enjoyment out of them. So I can't get all the books, and admittedly, I'm a DC fan before I'm a Marvel fan. But it's, same when the Rebirth stuff started too. If it all comes out all at once, it's just so hard to try and get. I really wish they would practice staggering some of the stuff more and whatnot. So
well, that's why I liked about how when we were talking about DC and Wildstorm coming back, in the back matter, Warren Ellis was saying how he plans to not just put out a whole bunch of titles and floods with titles. He's going to stagger it. And so I wish that a lot of people would learn from that, where, you're putting titles out, but you're staggering them a little bit so we kind of get a chance to jump on, you know.
Well, you know, even the young animals staggered at least to the point to where the first month, you know, one book came out.
Yeah.
Then the next book,
Yeah.
another new book came out. So you at least had a month between. So you were, you know, gave you some wiggle room in there. You could, that first month you could get the Doom Patrol. If you didn't like that, you could go, okay, I don't need to keep getting this, and I'll try the next, you know, I'll try Shade the Changing Girl when it comes out, and decide what you wanted to do as you move forward. It gave you a little bit of room to you know, to navigate that you don't get if a whole bunch comes out at once. And I'm not just being critical of Marvel. DC does that too. I mean, when they relaunch, reboot, whatever their main line, they always put out a ton of books all at one time, and it's hard to make decisions as to what you're going to get or not going to get. Plus the fact the smaller titles that people might enjoy never get a chance because you can't compete with the big titles. If you're putting out some obscure, like America, really, that's going to be more of an obscure kind of a fringe book. If you're putting out at the same time all these X-Men books come out, everybody knows who X-Men are. The X-Men are always going to get the dollars first. It's hard to compete. You're actually killing your own books. It's just like, you know, I feel sorry if DC relaunches. I feel sorry for any book that gets released the same week or whatever that Batman and Justice League get released on, because you're competing against books that everybody's going to go buy those books first, and they never try the other book, and it makes it, you know, really hard from a consumer standpoint. You think the marketing people would go, we need to stagger this differently so we're not killing our own books by putting them up against, you know, the big titles. So
yeah, which is why I kind of draw to indie anyways, because at least they, you know, most of those indie companies they'll have some titles that they release, but usually it's not so much to the point where you're overwhelmed. Or are you not? You're missing out.
Now,
you know.
Now, yes. There for a while, Image was cranking out number one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it seemed like for a while there was like right after Saga exploded and it was like huge. Then it seemed like every week there was one or two number ones coming out from Image for a while, and that seemed a little.
Oh yeah. Well,
but you're right. As a whole, if we look at independent comics beyond Image, you're right. There's never a deluge. Valiant gets close sometimes. If you're interested in their whole line, they've kind of gotten into the relaunch pattern also, it looks like, and so that could be challenging too. I think. But yeah. But then at least you're not competing with a name brand product. You might be competing against like if your book is coming out the same time, you know, Rick Remender or Brian K. Vaughan are putting out books because their books draw a lot of eyes. If your book comes out the same week as their book, that might be a bummer if you're kind of a no-name person, somebody who that everybody doesn't know who they are yet. So your book may not get the traction that it would if it came out. You know, it's like with movie releases, right? You never want your movie to be released on the same week that like an Avengers movie comes out or a Star Wars movie comes out, because you know no one's going to your movie. They're all going to those. To the block. You don't stand a chance. So same sort of a concept, I think. So yeah.
Which is why you didn't see the DC Suicide, and I think it was Civil War, or you didn't see them go out in the same time. You saw them stagger because they knew that they're gonna be up against each other, and it's gonna be kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, well, let's move on to some independent books.
Okay.
What do you want to talk independent wise?
I guess because it's looking straight at me. Paper Girls.
Paper Girls.
Yes.
Coming back off of its break.
Yeah. I was. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned I know in your video where you were talking about your books, this cover.
Yeah.
You like this cover, not like the other covers. And it is definitely different because all the covers up to this point have basically been one solid color, you know, like pink or yellow or blue or whatever. And maybe the Paper Girls logo is a different color. This one's got multiple colors on it, so that's a little different. The other thing I will say is I can't tear this cover off and make a poster out of it. All the other single issues, supposedly, I don't know anybody who's done it, but you could, you know, each 4 issues, you could peel the covers off and make a poster. I can't imagine anybody actually tearing their comic book apart to do that, but maybe so. But anyway, so I thought it was a note. They finally quit doing that because they used, like I said, it used to be the interior cover the interior cover was a poster, and now it's not. But anyway, what did you think? Issue 11.
Yeah. It was. I feel like it had some more, I guess, hard sci-fi moments in here that can be very confusing for those who are not into sci-fi. And in my video, I mentioned how I just love confusing, very hard sci-fi books.
Yeah.
They're like real, I'm just like so into anything that's hard sci-fi. So when something like this, Paper Girls, that you would not think sci-fi. You look at it and you like Paper Girls.
Right.
Whatever, I'm like it. This and that's what I did when I actually jumped. I told you I jumped in. I didn't even read the beginning, first issues of Paper Girls. I just literally jumped in, and it's been like a little adventure ever since I have jumped in. Like I'm so confused all the time, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's just yeah, and the book is so not what it was solicited, because the initial solicitation was they were really coy. Oh, it's Paper Girls. It's about a group of paper girls who deliver papers, and they're delivering papers on Halloween Eve, and ooh, something happens. So you're thinking, oh, it's gonna be something that has to do with Halloween or whatever, and then of course it's like totally nuts. It's this whole Steven Spielberg-esque great adventure, sci-fi, time traveling, talk to your future self.
Yeah.
Kind of craziness. It's got this great kind of, there's these kind of winks and nods to the 80s, because this is 1988, which I don't know how many people who are watching this remember 1988. I remember it really well. So,
yeah.
and so those elements are just awesome, and some of them are just small. The whole, like, I laughed my ass off at the point here where there's a fight going on, and one of the girls going, hit her, and she's like, I can't, baby on board.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know you see the stickers now, but in like 1988, that's about the time that those, hanging in the window, baby on board. If you had a kid and you had a car seat, people would put that on board. Like somebody was going to suddenly drive safer because, I see there's a baby on board sign in there. That's when it became a real fad. So I thought it was funny that she just says that, as that girl, of course, has the papoose, right? The backpack with the baby in it. And their whole conversation about her, because clearly this girl that they're fighting with, who's speaking some weird language, she looks like a savage. She looks like some sort of a person out of the jungle. Other than her necklace has like transistor boards on it and stuff. So, where she's from, who knows? But they had this whole conversation about the fact that it must be her brother or something.
It was that element too, and then I also the very end where we saw that one scientist, sort of from something, was it I?
Yeah, she's working for Apple, basically, right?
Yeah, which is it's kind of funny to me because she called ICER, record, and it's so funny to me because it makes you wonder, will Apple really survive the future? I mean, so it's just, that was really funny to me how they're really playing a big part.
And iBeam, the Apple iBeam and stuff here, the blaster that she's got. Yeah, which I'm in trouble because I'm not an Apple fan, so I'm screwed. That I am not part of the future. So
I'm half and half. I got my MacBook Pro, my iPads and stuff like that, and my iPhone, but I love my Samsungs and stuff too. But I like seeing that apparently she's super in the future, I suppose. I mean, whatever BCE means. I imagine before Christ entered, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was trying. I mean, I was humming on about that too. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I know. I was seriously trying to figure that out. I was like, so that's a confusing element for this comic.
Yeah.
What is BCE? And so I was like, yeah, maybe before Christ entered the universe.
Right. And she is claiming that she has created time travel. So is she the first person to use it? So she's somewhere in between the hyper future and this. But clearly this timeline is weird too. It has it has a giant sloth, and stuff. But like I said, this girl that's running around that looks like a native. She's got this necklace, and the necklace, you know, instead of being stones and shells and stuff like that, it's, you know, it's circuit boards. So
yeah, I like the how she's speaking a language and
right.
the whatever indigenous language that was, but the girl was like, she made some kind of movie reference or something to her. There was a lot of movie references in here, wasn't it? It was so funny.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The dialogue in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that dream the girl KJ was having was very, very odd, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's some fun dream sequences occasionally in the book. Like I said, I really enjoyed the issue. I think it's just the comic is a lot of fun. It's just this great kind of crazy adventure to see where these girls go and what they do and all of that. And so I really enjoy it. The book always feels really short to me. Lots of times I'm like, it'll have, and you know, and I will say this is one thing that feels kind of like Saga too, is there'll be like there seems to be like, there's like one element in the book that makes you go, what?
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is, it's there, it's enjoyable, but it's just so easy to consume and it's gone. And you're going.
Saga feels to me though. That Saga feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
all his books feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, but I love it. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like I should be critical of that, but I just enjoy it so much that maybe that's not.
No, I'm totally on board with that, because I'm like, between Brian K. Vaughan and Robert Kirkman, because they both seem to do books that are very, very episodic in the way they are delivered. And it's like, you literally, as soon as you take your breath and it's like, you release it and it's just like, okay, it's done. What happened? I need more. And I feel that way with Paper Girls. Yeah. I feel that way with Saga. I feel that way with, like I said, Robert Kirkman's books, The Outcast and Walking Dead. And so it's like, sometimes with those kind of books, the way they're delivered in such a short, I guess delivery, it kind of makes, or output, it kind of makes you feel like you can drop it and then get back on and drop it, get back on, because you may not miss much, you know?
Yeah. Except I don't want to miss any of it. So, Mikey the Kid is saying before the Common Era, similar to BC, is what he's saying. That I don't know if that's a confirmed, that's what it is, or that's his guess. Before the Common Era, whatever the Common Era is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be, maybe. We don't know until Brian K. Vaughan tells us.
But I will say this also about these books. $2.99. Whereas a lot of their books have moved to $3.99, independent books and whatnot. He continues to produce his books at they continue to produce the books. Saga and this are both $2.99 books. They're worth their value, I think. But
I really appreciate that too, because there's nothing I love more than paying a little bit less for my book.
Well, right, and I guess maybe that's also a statement on how successful they are. They're selling enough issues that they didn't have to do that price bump to allow them to be successful. So, to make the money they needed to stay comfortable, they don't have to because they're selling enough of it to do that. So, he's saying that's what Google is saying. Google is saying that it's before the Common Era. Okay, cool.
The almighty Google.
Yep.
The Google God has spoken.
Yeah.
But
cool. All righty. Hey, want to talk some Electric Sublime?
Oh yeah. Yep. We got the Brendan McCarthy covers.
Yeah, of course. I like the subscription cover, the kind of weird art. Each issue is kind of some sort of a nod to some, art form in one fashion or another. So the final issue, basically, of this story anyway,
yes,
I will say it ends in a way that it feels like clearly when's the next, series coming out, right?
It sure did.
I really enjoyed this as a whole. I can't remember if the other issues do this. I had some frustration with panel layout in this issue, in that we get like this page. This is like the third and fourth page, I think, or fourth and fifth page. when I look at this, for me to read it, I assume I'm supposed to read it this way, like this is a double page spread.
Yeah.
But that's not how you're supposed to read it. You read here and then you read this little bit. But because this gutter lines up the way it does, and there's no gutter here, my eye wants to do this. And it does that throughout the book on this type of gutter. I mean, some of the gutters work okay. But that really, but even this kind of lines up the same way. You've got this nice clean white border that goes straight across. And so my eye initially wants to do this. And then I have to realize, no, the story goes this way. And maybe it's just my issue, but to me,
no, not to the same.
Comic book structure tells me that if, you know, and then, I mean, maybe this is more mechanics than lots of people like to hear about. It's stuff I think about as I'm reading the book. There needed to have been something more that breaks this up, or they shouldn't have been equal. Something should have been different. So that was a minor frustration I had to start out with. Once I realized what was going on, you know, then clearly I'm smart enough to be able to read, you know, and read it right. But that kind of threw me. But
yeah. I had the same issue. I had the same issue with the sequence of panels as well.
Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed it. But it felt like this issue. I mean, this is the climax, right? They're chasing after the kid, you know, because he's messing with things. But it doesn't really. I guess another criticism. It doesn't at the end of it doesn't really give us a rationale as to why the kid is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, he does some stuff by accident, but clearly the stuff he's doing here, where they're chasing him, you know, isn't by accident. I mean, he's being malicious, and then we get to the end of it, and then it's like he's being innocent. And I don't think he's acting innocent. I think he is kind of to some degree being clueless, understanding what he has done. But I found some of that there to go, no, I want more. I mean, I like the ending. The ending was kind of brutal. The answer to fix the problem is like, whoa, they really did that, you know? So I was kind of shocked that they actually, you know, did that.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because you figured they'd come up with some heroic way to fix it. And how they fix it is not heroic.
Well, maybe heroic to art.
I don't even think it was heroic to him, because clearly
he's crazy, right?
Well, he comes out of that basically, I want nothing to do with this ever again. You're right. You know, by the time he ends, you know, he leaves, it disappears. He's now in hiding. You know, he wants nothing to do with anything, but he's clearly bothered, you know, when he comes out. I mean, because he comes out after dealing with the kid, you know, not in a good headspace at all. Even for him, exactly. Even for him, he's in a bad headspace. So,
yeah, I love this issue. I have to say, I just have to. It went to a place I didn't expect it, to be honest. Right. And it was like, whoa, did they just do that? Like, seriously? And then the end, that last panel where they revealed something. I was like, oh shit! Like,
right? You knew those impressionists. They're shifty characters, right? Yeah. Those impressionists.
Yeah. I just love this. I just love this whole entire series. Like, it's people are like, you know, people who didn't give this a chance, definitely, I think they should pick it up and trade for sure. And honestly, I even appreciate the way they drew the director. You know, I mean, like, I at first I really didn't like how they drew her. I felt like she didn't really look as feminine as she
right.
as I feel like they made her. But you know, I think in the end, I really appreciated the way the art was illustrated in this series, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. She has really weird cheekbones, right? It's like her cheekbones are drawn at a strange height, and they're drawn in a way that just makes her look unhealthy in some fashion, like she's underfed. And I don't mean skinny. Yeah. And I don't mean skinny. I mean, so I agree with you. I mean, she always looks kind of odd, you know.
Gaunt, very gaunt.
Yeah. I'm hoping there's more, don't you? I mean, the way it ends clearly leaving us with. So I hope it sells well enough that they think they can do more of it and whatnot. So,
and even if it doesn't sell well, I hope to see more. I mean, I feel like IDW definitely takes chances with these little small miniseries. One example is the what's that series that I was reading? The Big Bang. The Big Bang came out with three separate ones, and I didn't hear anyone talking about the Big Bang at all. And it came out with Bigger Bang, Biggest Bang. So maybe we will see this come out with another miniseries. I hope to goodness they do, because this was really good.
Yeah. And I love art. I mean, that's, I'll be up front. I really love art. And so it has to do with art and art type things. And so I'm on board, for that. Makes it a lot of fun too. So, like I said, it left room with there to be some, some stuff. I like some of the questions they left behind. Besides the reveals, I like some of the questions. I mean, the director, she's kind of doubting herself, or they planted that in her head. Maybe I'm working with a bunch of people who hate me, a bunch of people who are jealous of me because I jumped up the ranks so fast, So there's that whole kind of, corporate, kind of aspect of The Office that they can play with more. That I would be, curious to see that aspect of the story played with more and stuff in it too and whatnot. But it was a fun 4 issues, and I hope there's more for sure.
Yep.
What else? What else do you want to talk about?
I love you to see it.
Okay, Deadly Class. So I'm not sure how we talk about this. Because I know some people are trade waiting, and to some degree I don't mind spoiling stuff, but there's some things that are such huge reveals that I feel like I don't want to. I mean, even though we're 4 or 5 days out for people reading it in singles, I don't really want to blow it for people. So if you're watching this may be a time to tune out. I still don't know that we're going to really spoil it, but in the off chance that we do, they're huge reveals in this. 2 really big reveals in this, at least. And I don't know how we talk about it without maybe saying what it is. So if you don't want to know, time to bail out now. Turn the sound off when we pull the comic down and not show it anymore. Then you're safe. We're not gonna be talking about it anymore. So with that said, this is your warning. Leave now. Just watch the video. Whatever. Deadly Class issue number 26. What the hell?
I know, right? First of all, I jumped in this very late, so I need you to explain some things to me. But what is going on with that girl's face? Tell me, please.
Oh, okay. So that girl, she that's like her war paint. She's Latino. She puts on the Day of the Dead garb. That's part of her assassin garb. So that's whose face you're talking about, right? Looks kind of like that.
Yeah.
So that's her makeup, and she's still wearing the makeup. Basically, they put her back in her makeup while they're basically torturing her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I didn't know it's the surgery they put on her face or something. But I was like, oh my goodness, like that's brutal. Here. Yeah,
no, that's her basically her equivalent of her ninja costume, as it were, her assassin costume. So that's that's the first big reveal in it, is because she's supposed to be gone. We saw her basically get poisoned. I'm assuming I assumed she was poisoned, dead, and gone, because she's disappeared from the class. She was gone for the rest of the school year. She was gone. So surprised to get her back. We get our rogue plumber in here who looks like somebody out of Breaking Bad. Stomping around in his hazmat suit, just kicking people's asses and stuff. And then we get the second huge reveal in this.
Yeah.
That I don't know. So like, yay on one hand, and then I'm thinking, okay, you have to explain this to me, because how does that work? Because we saw this person get eliminated by all standards. And so then my thought is who all is in on it? Who all knows he's not dead? Because does the school know? Does Master Lim know that he's not really dead? Does the person who killed him, do they know he's not dead? And then I started thinking about it. The bigger question is it okay that these people are back? One of the things about independent comics versus Batman, right? If we see Batman get killed, we know Batman isn't dead. I mean, hell, they have a conversation in this latest Batman, right? There are 3 characters in there who all say, I've died and come back, right? That's a standard trope of superhero comics, right? It's not a trope of independent comics. Our assumption always is in independent comics, everybody's free game, and if somebody dies, they're dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we saw 2 people die, or we assume died. Clearly they didn't, and they're back.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah. I feel like it's it could be a good thing. I mean, it could be, it's a toss up. It depends on how you take it. Like it could be a, how was it Dallas? You remember Dallas back in the back?
Oh
in the
yeah,
day?
yeah. Yeah, I slept in the shower and yeah.
Yeah. So it could be something like that, or
Right.
or it could be, it could be. But I think it's breaking new ground, because we're not used to seeing that in indie comics, and then now that they're going in that direction where we're practically bringing somebody back to life, that's kind of cool to me,
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm excited by it because I like the character. To some degree, it feels like when some of these people died, the book lost its mooring as far as what attached us to the comic. There's been a common thread through the thing. We lost that common thread. Now potentially that common thread is back. I mean, for the whole dev thing and whether or not it bugs me, I guess I'm fine with it for right now. I want some rationale behind how this all happened. And if that isn't told to me well, then I start to go, oh man, you just did what kind of most independent comics have always promised us, that, dead is dead and that sort of thing. So, so I'm, interested in how that works and doesn't work, but super excited. Really love the book. Love the action in it. I mean, here's one thing. Did the art seem not as solid as what it has been?
Yeah. I actually felt that way when I opened it up. I really did. And I was like, maybe they're just changing the way it looks. But when I first dipped into Deadly Class at a really late issue, like it was, I think, issue 20, which I probably should start from the beginning. I feel like the art was a lot different. Like it was a lot more. It was just, I can't describe it, but it just was more tight, I suppose, in places. And it didn't feel really that tight here. It felt more loose. And sometimes some things were a little indiscernible.
Yeah.
I had to really stare at the page to really, to find out, like to kind of really digest it and take it in. But I still liked the art. I just didn't feel like it was as pristine as we see it in other issues.
Yeah. That's how I am too. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that tight is the word I would use. And of course, there's always Wes Craig does an awesome job with a lot of energy and action. The way he panels and stuff like that is always really great. And so clearly there's going to be pictures in here. And I don't even want to open the book up and show it because it'll spoil stuff. But
I know, right?
clearly there's some scenes where things are exploding and whatnot, and so that's supposed to be, not crisp. I get all that. But if you look at his work up to this point, everything is just really, really sharp. And this issue felt rushed. I don't know if it was he was in a hurry or what, or he's doing something different or whatnot. So I'm really curious to see the next issue to see what it looks like. I'm still talking about it, but I want to look inside it because I know that I don't want to pull it down and have somebody hear something that I don't want to hear.
Just even looking at it right now, though, I'm like, it just for some reason the other previous issues had like this kind of glossy feel, like this kind of glossy, kind of blurry feel over the pristine art. And then in this issue, I didn't feel that way with it either. It felt like you said, it wasn't as tight,
right?
But it's a different style, if you ask me. Just the way it is presented, it's very familiar, but it's not in the same notion. But I really still enjoyed it.
Just not for me. It's just not quite as crisp. What I wanted to look at is I wanted to see when the next issue. I wanted to see when the next issue comes out. It says see you in 30. So I'm assuming in a month we'll get the next issue. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you've left us with this big, huge thing. I hope this is not where we're going to get a break in the story. So at the end of the back matter, it says see you in 30. So I'm assuming that means in a month we're going to get another issue. So we're not going to be waiting forever to get some answers, I would hope. Some answers to what's going on here. There's one other element in here that I really enjoyed and I laughed my ass off about. So all this chaos is going on, and at one moment there's like the head bad guy in this issue. She kind of gets preachy for a second, right? So they go into this. This guy goes into this room, checks the person that they've held prisoner is gone, and the guy comes out and goes, she's gone. We should have put more guards on this. And the boss lady has this like speech that talks about, you really shouldn't blame other people for your own misgivings, your own failures. You should recognize your failures and take on those mistakes. To me, it felt very political. And maybe
didn't it?
I don't know if it's just the element that's going on for me and Rez here in the United States right now. Things are just not really going the way I think either one of us wanted to go. But it felt almost out of place, but I really enjoyed it. It felt almost out of place for what's going on. And there's this pure chaos going around, and she has time to preach at this guy. But at the same time, I absolutely loved it because it's basically saying, look, people need to see look at yourself. Quit blaming everybody else. Look at yourself. If you have a problem, first maybe check yourself to see if, admit to your failures and try to fix those failures. I loved it. I just thought it was, I won't read it verbatim, but I got a kick out of it. I'm like, oh, here's Rick Remender throwing out some politics at us, I think, kind of saying.
I thought the same about that same part. I was like, oh, okay. We're going here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also feel like to some degree this issue it's going to be interesting because I don't know if this is issue 26, so I don't know if this is where a trade ends at or whatever. But I feel like as a single reader, because a lot of people read this in trades, as a single issue reader, this was almost a reward because I've been reading it in single issues. Because I don't know how long you're going to have to wait as a trade reader to get to see this. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I got a real kick out of it. I'm deeply curious about the whole death and coming back thing. Look forward to seeing the story tell me how that works, as I'm deeply, deeply curious as to how that all works. So always a favorite comic of mine.
And I found after when I asked you, I was saying I made the comment on Twitter that I have to go out and get this now because you guys kept talking about how good it was,
right?
And so I'm jumping on late with this whole entire series, and I think it was you or someone else who made the comment that it's definitely a payoff for those who are long-time readers. And so I definitely feel that way when I read this. Was something that if you have read it from the very beginning, it has a lot more impact. Then for me, it didn't have as much impact because I read it in later issues. I read later issues. So and it's nice kind of getting your input and kind of what you had got out of it from someone who is been reading it from the very beginning,
right?
Opposed to me, who just pretty much started with it.
Right. Because I think there's probably a different investment level for me and the characters having started with issue 1 and read it all the way up to this point versus having come in later. I still think you get the impact of what's going on, but it doesn't have the same sort of investment that you get if you've been going along with the whole thing. So So we done talking about that? Okay, I'm gonna put it down. So that comic's down. You can turn your volume back up. You can come back and watch the show or whatever as we talk about whatever else that we're not quite so concerned about spoiling. I'm not, like I said, that issue, I don't know that they want to wreck what goes on in that. Anyway, what else do I talk about? What else you got? Like there's at least one more.
Blood blister.
Okay, so what you have a variant?
Yeah, I got the symptom variant, the Dalton cover. I love it.
Nice, yeah, it's pretty cool. I guess there's quite a few. I think there's quite a few variant covers for this.
Yeah, and honestly, I would prefer the inside art to look just like this.
Yeah,
it would be. To me, this art right here on this cover fit the comic overall more than what was in the inside. That's my biggest complaint about this comic. But,
so the artist on the inside is Tony Harris. Tony Harris, at least from my experience reading Tony Harris, his faces all have this kind of a doe-eyed look to them, rounded faces, rounded everything, kind of I don't know. I don't dislike it, but it is definitely, you show me a face, I can pretty much immediately tell you that it's a Tony Harris face, because they all have mostly the same sorts of look to them. I mean, that's a pretty standard kind of a look to it. So yeah. I wasn't really excited by this. So the basic premise is we got this guy. He's clearly like.
I have to say, I felt the same. I wasn't the hugest, you know.
Yeah. So the premise is he's basically either he's a lawyer or he works for lawyers. His job is to go basically get people to sign their rights away, so people don't get sued for polluting water or that sort of thing. That's, in my world, he's a douchebag. I mean, he basically is tricking people into signing stuff so they won't sue, the frackers from, poisoning the water, or the lead paint people from, pouring lead into the water, all that different kind of stuff. That's what his job is wherever he's at. That's what he's been doing all along. Clearly he's a divorcee. He's got a kid that he's supposed to, act like he's a father to. He's not doing a very good job of that because his job is so important. And about the middle of the comic, he gets like a sore on his arm that he picks at, and it looks kind of like a blood blister, whatever, and it bleeds a lot as he's picking at it. It's pretty gross as far as that sort of visual and whatnot goes. He decides that he needs to go. He has a secretary go and fake like he's at a baseball game for him. It doesn't go really well. So he feels he needs to go and find his kid and apologize. His kid is supposedly running helping run a haunted house on Halloween. He goes into the haunted house, and the haunted house is really crazy. Either he's hallucinating or the haunted house has gone nuts because it's got actual demon, scary type stuff actually happening in the house, it seems. And that's kind of where we're left at, right?
Yeah. I was a little confused about the whole where the blood blister really where it was really incorporated besides that one blister we saw, which may be MRSA, I guess. Which I was like,
right.
hey,
I mean, so yeah, here it is. He's talking about the fact that, he should have went to this baseball game. He didn't. And he's on the phone, and he's got this red spot on his arm. Looks like a blood blister maybe. He starts squeezing at it, and then it just keeps, it keeps dripping blood. Right.
It was kind of like ill, like, it's a huge abscess just right there. But and, I don't know why I expected this to be more hell and more spawns and demons and not all this lawyering. Like him, the very beginning we had this one very morbidly obese woman jump out at him and tell him he's the devil.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem too frightened about it. You saw him literally dismiss and kind of like get kind of physical with a homeless vagabond.
Right.
For change. And of course the whole.
I think that's all to establish that he's a bad guy, and so of course when hell comes for him, it makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna continue picking it up for a few issues at least to give it more of a self. But yeah, the first issue wasn't the most standout among the ones I've read.
Yeah, it just didn't grab me. I mean, as a first issue, kind of went kind of the hooks, and for me there weren't any. There was nothing uniquely special, or there wasn't enough explanation to the kind of thing to make me go, oh man, I'm intrigued by that element. There really wasn't that element. The blood blister and it being bleeding for 10 panels, that doesn't like rivet me to the comic. For instance, I like all the creators on this. I don't, like I said, Tony Harris has his art style. I'm fine with that art style. But I mean, there was nothing that was kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't.
Well, whose art I would love to have seen on this? I would actually love to see Phil Hester do illustrations on this.
Right, him draw it instead of writing it. Right.
Ella's write it.
That's shipwreck.
Yeah, I know. But it would be nice if they took over this one too.
Right. Well, here's the thing is, I think Phil Hester can write. He wrote Mystic, which is a image book that came out for a while. It was out for like 9 issues, I think, or 12 issues. I don't know that it's ever gonna come back. I really, really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really fun thing. So I think Phil Hester is a decent storyteller. I just think that it didn't get the right elements in issue 1 to make it riveting. I'm not saying it's bad.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying I'm not like, that was awesome, super stoked for the next issue kind of a thing. So we'll see. I'm like you. Clearly with the way we order comics, we're committed for at least 2 or 3 issues just because of how far in advance we order them. So, but I'll keep ordering it. Issue 2 comes out. If issue 2 hits me the same way issue 1 does, then I'm probably done. I'm probably not going to, write it any farther. I'll end up getting 5 issues or whatever. But yeah, so.
Yeah, because it seems like we end up ordering at least 3 before we find out if it's good or not.
Right. So I don't think that was kind of funny. They mentioned the JCs in this. I didn't know the JCs were still a thing.
Yeah.
Because the haunted house is being run by the JCs. They're kind of like the Lions or the Moose Club. They're just a different, kind of a organization kind of stuff. We used to have JCs where I live at, but they disappeared. I don't know, late 70s, early 80s. So I don't know I don't know if that's a Midwestern thing, because Phil Hester is from the Midwest. I don't know if that's do they have JCs around where you're at still? Do you know?
I know. Yeah, no.
Okay. So I kind of wonder, I don't know if that's a Midwestern thing or that's just a Phil Hester's my age, and that's why he mentioned those. I don't know. So yeah. All righty. What else? I don't think me and you have any other books that are the same. I don't think. Maybe we do though.
I know you have this.
Oh, right on. So you did get Baltimore. Cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you to help me with this one, because I was gonna start collecting back issues of this, and I decided I'm putting it on pause because I can jump in at this because it starts with number 1, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of history that I am not aware of.
Yeah, so we're if this issue makes this feel very much like we're coming up on Endgame. So there is a lot of story that's before this, because Lord Baltimore, the main character, of course, in this issue does not show up until like the last page. Lord Baltimore has been fighting the Red King and the vampires and all of that ever since basically right after World War One. Right after World War One, he comes home after being in the war. He lost his leg. He actually has a 1 wooden leg. He comes home and he finds out that his family has been decimated. He has to put his own family to the stake because they've been turned into vampires. And so he makes it his commitment to hunt down the vampires that turned his family into vampires and destroy them for revenge. And then he finds out that it's not just those vampires. There's more vampires beyond that. So he's basically on this giant vampire hunting rage, which he goes on for years. And he fights other supernatural stuff. If werewolves get in his way, he takes out werewolves. If witches get in his way, he puts down witches. He solves a bunch of that stuff, thinking that once he's done that, he's going to die. For some reason, he didn't die. Questionably, he's not even alive now, but somehow he is still going because he is waging this war against the Red King. And so here we've got the Red Kings. It's actually the book since the last issues that came out, the last little miniseries that came out. It's jumped 2 years into the future, which was a kind of a shock for me too, to be reading it. And there's this giant battle going on. Clearly from reading this, they get this map. They show you how much the Red King has taken over, and this massive war is going on. That's the very brief overview of where we're at to get to this comic. The Red King is not, he's like some uber vampire, more than just a vampire kind of thing that's, controlling all of this stuff. So.
Yeah. And apparently, I guess with the help of, I suppose lichens are in here as well. Lichens, witches, different ghouls and stuff like that. And so they sacrifice people in the name of the Red King, and that somehow gives him power, which I got the gist of in this particular comic. But then we see also that there's a few people like a once trusted advisor to Baltimore that they were trying to bring into the fold to lead Baltimore to their side. Well,
because Baltimore hates the church.
They can help the King. Yes.
Yeah, Baltimore absolutely hates the church. He thinks the holy men are serious hypocrites, because during this era, they literally had this inquisition going on. The guy in this that they're pressuring into working with Baltimore again, Baltimore actually kind of beat him down and showed him the errors of the ways, because they kind of comment on that in here. I think they do a relatively decent job of kind of giving you the idea of what the Inquisition used to be, because they would just go around like, you know,
Killing in the name of the.
maybe you stole an apple, and they would like torture you to death because you sinned. You stole. You know, they were so focused on minor little sins of people that they never saw the bigger picture. And Baltimore always thought they were hypocrites and whatnot. So that's why they need him, because the two of them come to kind of an understanding of each other. So they want to use him to get back into Baltimore's good graces, so they can go on to fight the whole kingdom and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this issue, even though there was a lot of history that I just totally, completely missed out on.
Sure.
My only knowledge of this story was the actual novel that was written by Mike Mignola,
right?
Of Baltimore, and then that was pretty much it. And I didn't read the whole entire novel. I read it like half of it, and so then I thought I had enough to be able to jump into Baltimore, the Red Kingdom, and it's definitely something that is not jumping friendly, I have to say, because I did need some spoiling.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just to jump in here, you have to just kind of accept stuff and go and hope it works out to let you know, unless you find somebody. Because a lot of these Dark Horse comics like this, especially the Magnolia Universe stuff, is told in like miniseries. If you open up the inside cover, which is not helpful if you're ordering online, and you look down the bottom here, it'll say down here that it is
37.
number 37 in a series. So there's actually 36 issues of story before this, but they're told in these little chunks. And that used to be how all of the stuff was done. The BPRD, before they started numbering it at 100 and just numbering it forward, that's how it was too. It was told in arcs. Like it would be, this is Baltimore, the Red Kingdom. There's Baltimore, the Widow. There's Baltimore and the Red Witch. There's Baltimore and if you're buying this stuff not in trades, but you're buying it in like single issues, it's hard to know what you're buying and what order it's supposed to be. And that's why I have, as much as I want to get, because I don't own all the Baltimore stuff. I own a little over half of it. I want to get the rest of it, but it's kind of challenging to get the rest of it, because you buy it, you get it thinking, I can read this now. And then you open it up and go, oh, it's number 15. I need to find the other issues to really read it.
Exactly. Well, and I had my my out of town shop. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I had my out of town shop put some back issues on hold for me, and I told him, like, well, just keep holding it for a little bit longer, because I don't, maybe I could just jump into this one. But yeah, I'm like, oof.
Right. I mean, because in this issue in particular, towards the end of it, right, there's these people, there's the Sikh, the guy with the turban, the kind of curled up mustache, and there's the guy with the one eye that's messed up. They're clearly friends. They're clearly compatriots. They have history together. Yeah. They get picked up by that woman who's in a military uniform, which is pretty unique for just coming out of World War I for her to be in military garb. Yeah. Clearly they have a history too. The guy with the turban was potentially romantic. Well, you hardly get any of that. Well, the series right before this, which I can't remember what it was called, what the undertitle of it was, has that whole kind of fallout of him kind of confessing his love and her going, I can't deal with this right now, because they're, and like I said, this issue jumped forward quite a bit. This issue from the last series jumped 2 years, because there's still like there was a lot, and I don't know if this is them. If this is going to be the end, if we're looking at the end, if this is going to be the actual fight against the Red King and they're ending, I don't know if this is the end of the Baltimore stuff too. Yeah, it does, which bums me out. Because I like this whole Big New Universe stuff, and it kind of bums me out that they're shutting it all down, because I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, so. I honestly, I feel like it's what they're trying to do. They're trying to segue into a ending for Baltimore. Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear about Baltimore, in such a way where you usually hear about Hellboy or BPRD. It's not really as publicized as those other two. It seems like it's more obscure for sure. Right. In the Mike Mignola universe.
Yeah, but like I said, this issue kind of, when you're reading it, it feels like that way. You get to the letters page, and the first paragraph of the letters page, they say, when this ends, most of these people aren't going to make it out the other side of it. Yeah. So that makes it sound pretty fatal too. So I don't know. I liked it because I read a lot of Baltimore stuff. I can see from your perspective, just coming into this blind, that there's a lot there that you don't know what's really going on, as far as the little bits and pieces of it. So, yeah, for sure. For sure. All righty. What else?
Did you pick up Planetoid Praxis?
I did not.
Oh man, this was so damn good. I really, really enjoyed this. One of my top books this week. There's something that happened in here that, you know, I was like, oh my God, it was just such a pleasure. I mean, the very first Planetoid, which you don't have to really read to jump into this, you know, was good, but it was something about it, the writing from Ken Garing, that kind of felt a little elementary. And there was a 5-year break between Planetoid when it came out and released, in between now with Planetoid Praxis. So he's grown significantly because he, you know, and he talks about it in the back where he's, you know, he's grown, he's been able to see other projects be pushed through, and he's been able to contribute to other projects, which he feels have really affected the way he delivered this. And I definitely can see the difference, because the first one, although it had a lot of hard sci-fi elements to it, it just didn't feel, it's just the way it was delivered didn't feel really hard sci-fi. It felt more of a soft sci-fi, the way it was told. And so it was moments where I was jumping in and out of the novel, the graphic novel of issues 1 through 5 for Planetoid. And I thought, okay, this is okay. I like it a lot, but it could be a little bit better as far as the writing. And then you read Planetoid Praxis, and you're like, oh my damn, this is really, really good. Like, it starts off with one of the characters that was in the Planetoid, and she's now the leader of this ship that not crash lands, but just lands perfectly onto the planet. And so what we know in the first Planetoid, this Planetoid that exists doesn't really have, there's no way to really land on a planet without damaging your ship. It has magnetizing pull that it pulls anything into its orbit onto its surface and immediately destroys whatever's coming on. So the fact that the ship was able to come on to the planet without any kind of damage occurring was kind of unsettling to this one leader up here. And so this guy, he waltzes onto the planet off his ship. He's greeted by her daughter and her daughter's friend. They take him back to the mother, and she tries talking to him to find out where he's from. She asks him, can he remove his mask? He doesn't. He tries to tell her, hey, can I wait till after night? The air is not really safe for me. Immediately, one of her henchmen just rips the guy's mask off, and they see that he's a part of the Ono Mao, which is like this faction that actually enslaved their people and other different alien races. And so we see like a inner turmoil through, with her leadership and the people in this on the settlement, and they're trying to talk about whether they're going to go through with the execution because of him being Ono Mao. And so we see her not really wanting to do it, but she just decides to go with the decision of the people because they want to see him die because he is Ono Mao. And so she lets it happen. She lets him be executed, and we see him get executed. And her will have to lie to her daughter about what the status of him is going to be. She tells her daughter that, hey, he's going to go back to a spaceship. We're going to escort him back to a spaceship, and he's going to go and whatever. And then that's not what happens at all. And so her daughter's friend actually tells her, hey, we think he's going to die, so you just might want to forget about it. And are kind of concerned, talking to her husband about how she believes that because his ship got here so easily without any kind of damage, that she knows now that that now their safe space is no longer safe. That means anybody can come on there, and whatever technology they're using to get on the planet, it's probably going to bring harm to them, and so they need to be worried about what's going to come next. So it's kind of left on some kind of cliffhanger in that way, but I really, really enjoyed it.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it was really.
I'm trying to think. I think I remember when Planetoid first came out, when the first series of it came out. I'm trying to think. It seemed like a lot of the guys were reading that.
It came out in 2012.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a 5-year difference. But let me tell you, it was just so crazy how they threw that guy to the whole group of disgruntled people. It was so awful how they just like they just kill that guy. I was like, oh my
Tore
god.
him up, huh? Oh.
Yeah, like here it is. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so pretty brutal.
Yes.
Brutal. Let me tell you, it was a wonderful first issue. Like I was so it was honestly definitely better than Planetoid. So I definitely suggest to anybody who wants to jump into it for sure.
Cool. And that's an Image book, right?
Yeah, Image book.
Cool. Right on. I read issue 8 of Faith. Still a fun comic as always. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it. I just really kind of enjoy who Faith is and whatnot. She had been being haunted by what she thought was being haunted by ghosts and whatnot. In this issue, she bites over this kind of, she has a workmate who's into horror films and stuff. And Faith absolutely hates horror films. She hates everything about them, wants nothing to do with them whatsoever. So the whole ghost thing is freaking her out and whatnot. So she invites over this office mate who knows that she's a superhero to check it out because, of course, she's into scary movies and whatnot, so she should be fine. They go into the room, and of course, she hasn't told her friend what it is that they're going to see because Faith isn't quite sure that everybody else has seen it. That's not just her own guilty conscience because these ghosts keep telling her that she's awful and she shouldn't be alive and all this stuff. And of course, these ghosts show up, and of course, her friend freaks out, and they go running out of her house, and they're staying out in the hallway of her apartment. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, why did you bring me to see that?" And she's like, "Well, you watch horror films all the time. You should think this is just fine." She's like, "No, that's on TV. That's fake. Who cares about that? This is real. You're the superhero. You got superpowers." And, it was just kind of a funny, kind of moment. They end up working through it. They find out that the ghosts aren't really ghosts. They're little projectors that are showing this pre-programmed thing and she traces them back and finds out that it's some arch nemesis of hers that is messing with her, that, her ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend is basically haunting her and whatnot. And so we get some story with that, but it's kind of fun. Faith continues to be kind of an amusing comic book with an amusing character. And so I just kind of really enjoy it. So yeah, a light read, but fun.
Yes.
Got any others you want to talk about?
Yeah. Let's see. Speaking of horror, here we are with Spirit Hunters by Zenescope. This is issue 4 of 12, and I'm really, really enjoying these little one-shot kind of maxi series of some sort, where we have a team, an investigative team, or paranormal investigative team, where they go to various locations all around the globe, and they try to investigate different paranormal happenings. And they have a little ragtag team of different people that specialize in various things. But usually, what they do is they go to a place that seems to have a lot of deaths happening that are very unexplainable, and they have some kind of very special jurisdiction where they can go anywhere and investigate very thoroughly. And they try to rid the place of spirits by finding out what killed these people. And somehow, by the end of each book, that spirit leaves and the mystery is solved and whatever happens. It just feels very, very episodic. It feels like you're watching like an episode of Law and Order. I don't know why I always feel like that. I guess it's because there's the investigative parts in there, but it feels like you don't need to watch. You don't need to read every single issue to learn about it. And then, what I love about this particular series is that each issue is drawn by a different person, is illustrated by a different person. So you're getting different styles, which with each comic. But this issue takes place in a jail, in I guess a low-level jail or prison, and we have tons of prisoners and guards just being killed off by this very nefarious paranormal spirit, this haint, a haint of some sort. And so the team goes there and investigates, finds out that it's actually one of the other guards killing people, and they take them out. And it was really good. It's not a lot to it, but I enjoy it because it's very campy. It's very, very one-off. You don't, like I said, you don't need to follow a main story to kind of, or a very, I guess, linear story to get to it. I really enjoy it, and it's very, very enjoyable.
I'm just surprised. I don't even look at Xenoscope books because they seem to basically be largely, and this maybe gets me in trouble, largely pandering the TNA crowd, right? Seems to be a lot of their books, at least the covers, or just always have the hottie toddy, girl on the cover, kind of a thing. So I don't even, I mean, I literally just completely skip over Xenoscope. I don't even bother to even begin to look to see.
I'm the same way.
There.
Yeah.
So interesting to see.
Thing. I skip over them.
So interesting to see if there's something coming out that's not necessarily that. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why I jumped into this, because of the fact that it had nothing to do with scantily clad women, gracing the covers, or fairy tales. It was pretty much just paranormal.
Right.
I'm really surprised as it's put out by Zenescope, to be honest, because it just doesn't feel like a Zenescope book. Because I've read quite a few Zenescope books over the past few months. Like I read The Red Agent, which was a take on Red Riding Hood, a modern day Red Riding Hood, and then I read what else did I read by Zenescope? The Cinderella serial killer princess, and that was Cinderella killing off all the fairy tale people, and and it was a decent read. It was nothing I wanted to jump into and continue on with it, but this is the only one I continue on wanting to pull, and I really like it. It's not something I take seriously, but I really enjoyed the covers. The illustrations are really nice, and the story is good enough for me.
Cool. Yeah.
That's something I tell people to go out and get. But if you like really cool looking, scary covers, then yeah. Which some people are really into cover collecting,
Yep, sure. One more book I'll talk about. It's the Yakuza Demon Killers. This is issue number 4, the final issue for now. I mean, it ends. They're done. I don't know when it's going to come back, but it literally ends saying the ending for now, and it ends without an ending. So I'm really frustrated with the issue because it didn't really, just about everybody dies in it. There's only a couple people left. The people that are left are possessed. So any characters that you were invested in are gone basically through it. So you have to be invested in the situation, not in the characters. I'm somebody who normally prefers my stories to be character driven. So if I invested in a character somewhere along the way in it, I enjoy generally the book a lot more than if not. So everything's kind of gone out of the book, has been kind of gutted, literally and figuratively in the book. And it ends with a couple years jump into the future, and the demons are kind of kicked everybody's ass. There's only a few humans left. And then, like I said, the book kind of ends with a, to be continued. I don't know when kind of thing. Continue to really like the art. I like this dark visual, art and the way it's colored and whatnot. It's really messy and like I said, very dark. Lots of it's, silhouette based kind of stuff. And I enjoy all of that. And I was enjoying the story up until this issue, but at this issue, it feels like we didn't get a whole story. They cut it short. I thought at one point this was supposed to be 6 issues, but it only went 4. So I don't know if they're hoping it sells somewhere, the trade sell or whatever. So hopefully they get a second half or exactly what their plan is. Whereas the other IDW book that me and you read, Rez, was the Electric Sublime. It had an ending, but also left it open to adventure further on. This really didn't have an ending. It didn't do that. This didn't really satisfy any sort of endingness. It just left me going, great. How long am I going to have to wait for this to come back so I can get the rest of the story? Because right now, at least Tokyo is overran with demon, hellspawn that are just chewing everything up, kind of a thing. So, what's next?
Yeah, I read issue 1. I'm surprised it ended at 4. I thought it was supposed to be 6 as well.
Yeah. So, not real happy with the way this, came about. So, I don't know. If suddenly if like a month from now, suddenly it shows back up in solicitations with the second part of the story, I'm silly enough, I will probably pick it up because I want to know what's going on. Like I said, I like the art. I like the idea of it. But if it's a long time, if it's like 6 months or whatever, I don't know. By then, I may be over the story and not care. So I don't know. Kind of disappointed though, as far as that goes.
IDW books you're going to be picking up? I know there's quite a few that are resolicited that look.
I don't know. I haven't really looked at it through. IDW does a lot of licensed material, and like I said, I'm not a fan of licensed material. Like, I'm a huge Highlander fan. I know they're doing Highlander. I don't plan on picking that up. Just because I don't know. I never seem to really connect and enjoy with that kind of stuff. And so I haven't looked to see if what they've got coming out that would be more along the lines of original content.
They have a few little series. Like one was called Animal Noir that I started pulling. It's already on the 3rd issue for the solicits, and it looked very interesting, like very wacky and crazy. And I know they have one called Cosmic Scoundrels. Cosmic Scoundrels, which looks very, very old schoolish, kind of like, like a Voltron looking. And let's see, there's another one that's called the Night Owl Society that looked very, very intriguing to me. And Brutal Nature, Concrete Fury.
I'll have to check this out because, like I said, I haven't looked at it very hard. So, oh yeah. That's a 5-issue, the Brutal Nature of Concrete Fury, right?
Yeah, all the ones I named are pretty much 5 issues, but the Cosmic Scoundrels seems like a cool one. And then there's also one called Darkness Visible that looked very, very eerie and crazy, and it has some really cool covers that I'm really enjoying looking at.
Cool. Well, I'll have to check those out. All righty. Any other books you want to chat about? I'm pretty much tapped out. So.
Oh yes. I have the last one is reassignment, or now I guess they took off the re and now they're just calling it the assignment by Motts and Jeff.
So did they say in the book why they changed the title? Is like something in the back that says
they didn't discuss it at all, which kind of confused me because it was being solicited as reassignment with 2 brackets between the re, and now it's the assignment, so it's kind of confusing. That they just changed it up like that.
I wonder if they're dodging the blowback from that. I'm sure that some people would consider it politically incorrect or whatever. I don't know if politically incorrect is the word I want to use. But with transgender folk being more out in the open now, and of course, my understanding of the story is the main character was forced gender reassignment. Is that right? Yeah.
It was. I thought. See that, and that's why I thought it was supposed to be called reassignment. So again, like it's. I wish they would have went over that because I was already writing them and at them saying I love reassignment, and no one ever, or I'm telling people, yeah, the first one's called the assignment, and then the remaining one's going to be called reassignment because it made sense too if they did that way. But yeah, I guess they just full-fledged changed it up, and I guess it's due to the controversy of the nature of the story itself. But I don't like that they backpedaled a little bit, and kind of changed things up because I feel like they should have stuck with the whole.
Well, I don't see why you would change the title because the subject matter within the book is still there. Changing the title doesn't take away from the fact that you've got this character that's been, forced gender swapped and stuff. So, yeah, interesting, I guess, in that sense. I didn't pick up the book because I know you guys were talking about it. I didn't pick up the book because I don't know that I'm 100% comfortable with the with that content. I don't know that bother. I'm figuring out exactly why, but it bothers me the whole
forced.
Yeah. And
it being forced, not really feels, voluntary.
It's the I guess it's the exploitive end of it that I don't know. It doesn't feel like that there's good transgender stories being written right now that I can see that's kind of more in mainstream type comics.
Yeah.
And so when you take something like this and then you make it, exploitive, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what I think of it from that aspect of it. So,
Well, I love hard case crime, and
right.
so I mean, this reads like a hard case crime, and you have essentially a guy who, you know, is not going to be the best kind of person, the best kind of character. He doesn't have the best character traits, and so we have this guy who's a hitman for a mob boss. He goes and kills the wrong person. That person's relative gets revenge by giving him a sex change, a sex reassignment, and he now he's awoken to seeing his change, and everything's changed for him. I mean, now he's a female, very attractive female at that, and so we've always seen already in this issue where he's been sexually assaulted, and had to fight back, and so now he's experiencing what women go through, and which I really like that. I like that part because now, I mean, he was at one point kind of a seedy character in itself, and he may have been guilty of doing that to a woman or two, and so maybe seeing him go through it, and understanding what women go through, kind of made him more of a sympathetic person, and I like seeing him evolve into that, and also seeing the whole revenge element too, where so now he's been turned into this woman that he didn't want to become, and now he is trying to track down the person who did this to him, why they did this to him, and ultimately maybe kill them. And he's already acknowledged that it's going to be blood everywhere. It's going to be going to be on the warpath to finding this individual. And what he doesn't know is that this person that has done the reassignment on surgery on him is actually locked into a mental facility. For I guess she admitted to doing this to him, and the psychiatrist who is over her, who is actually treating her, does not even believe that he's actually real. She thinks that the patient's making this up, that she's obsessed with somebody. Yeah, so it's some kind of element thrown in there too, where this this person that's actually did the surgery on him, they believe that she's just sick in the head, that she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's making this up, and they're trying to see if they can track him down somehow. And so there's going to be some kind of obvious obstacles for her, continuing on, I guess, allowing him to be in this body, or in this, I guess, role, and also obstacles with him finding her maybe. But yeah, it's gonna wrap up. It only has one more book left. It's 3 out of 3. So this is so
it's only 3 issues. Wow.
Yeah, but they're really thick though. Look, I'm gonna show you how thick they are. Super thick.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a book. It's like 3 comics or something. Like it's a very, very substantial comic. The first issue is going to cost $20. So in the first volume, it's going to cost $20. So that just shows you how much content you're getting. But I'm really enjoying all the hard case crime. I know it's a little controversial, and it can be a little bit
Sure.
exploitive in some ways, but a lot of noir things are exploitive in some regards. So I do enjoy seeing Jeff on illustrations. I do love Mott's writing. I do prefer seeing Mott's a little bit more on illustrations, but I get it how I can get it.
Right. So is that part of the purpose of the story, is to kind of show this, a guy having to deal with the same sorts of issues that women have to deal with? I mean, is that really part of the story, or is that just happenstance that they decided to tell?
I think it's happens. I think if that's something that they're trying to highlight, I feel like it's something that's in the forefront. It feels like something that's just occurring, just to kind of also be interwoven in the story, to show that now he's been forced into this change that he didn't want to undertake. But while he's undertaking this change, we're going to go ahead and just show him also going through things that may occur while he's in this new form. So I don't think it's something that they're trying to make as a main highlight a point.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe the revenge portion is definitely the more
sure
main. Yeah.
Right. So because I mean, books like this, I'm always kind of curious about and whatnot, and why they choose to, why are they choosing to tell the story in this way, and having someone, that their way of seeking revenge is by changing their sex or whatever. So so you say in this issue that they get sexually abused and whatnot. I mean, is that is that supposed to be some sort of statement saying that clearly as soon as you look like a woman, you're going to get abused? You can't keep that from happening, or am I reading too much into that? As far as I just curious that. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know what I think of that. And I'm the first to admit that a lot of exploit type of things. I like things that make me think, but I don't like things that are that maybe I'm necessarily supposed to be titillated by without thinking about,
Well, it doesn't really read as exploitive, to be honest. I think that it's just the very nature of the story can come off that way. But what I find very intriguing about it is that it may appear that way because we're American. So when you're taking a European French comic and then you're adapting it to a comic serial, and for American viewers and readers, different. I noticed a lot of the European comics may come off as a little bit more insensitive to certain topics. Because they take stuff like this, certain subjects that we take, and they may not take it as, I guess, as serious or as offensive as we do. And so maybe with this particular subject matter, it's just not taken over there in that same regard. So it may come off as maybe exploitative in some ways, but it maybe over there it's just not that same. It's not taken in that same light, which is why you got to think of that. Because I read a lot of European comics, and just you may find something that may be offensive to some sorts, but me having the knowledge of living overseas, there's things that we as Americans take seriously that they don't, like nudity. Thing that Americans, that you see something nude in a magazine and you're like, oh my gosh, like but over there it's just like nudity is a common place. It's a very common thing. So even with this subject matter, I do think that over there it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's just not to talk about it or to put it in this kind of light. And so when you come over here in the States, and this is a big deal that we're well,
I have zero issue with transgender, committing to the physical switch and all of that. Zero issue with that or whatnot. It's like I said, for me, I just question the lack of transgender stories that have to do with stuff like that, and then to top it off with the fact this is a forced kind of I don't know. It just that's the element of it, and I may check it out because it sounds interesting. I just don't want to get into I don't want to commit to something like that and then find myself more pissed off and disgusted than intrigued as to what are they really trying to tell us, as far as the story kind of goes and whatnot. So
I think if you did jump into any hard case crime, I would definitely suggest Peepland and Triggerman. Those are two really good ones. And so they're coming out in trade. They've already been solicited for the trades already. But yeah, those are definitely two hard case crime ones that are not as salacious, I suppose. But this one could be a little bit more, a little more controversial, I guess, in the way it's written, or I guess the subject matter per se. But I think Motts did a good job at adapting it for a graphic novel or / serial.
Yeah, and I guess watching the comments and whatnot, Terrence Comic Crack is there, and he's commenting on the fact that that I want there to be more behind it than it just being a plot point, and I guess that's kind of where that's a good way of stating. That's kind of where I am. What are they doing with the idea that they've been gender swapped, as opposed to it just being a shock thing to titillate us to come and read the comic? Is there more behind it than just that? Is that why we're supposed to be drawn to it because of this, or is there something else there? And I guess that's kind of what I was, asking and or looking for. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say too that also, like, I think if since you say you're gonna try to jump into it, they did have a film featuring Susan Sarandon, I believe, and also Michelle Rodriguez. She's in the main role as Frank Kitchen. So I've been trying to get a hold of that film because I said it's going to be a great compendium
Mm,
to the actual written work, and if I could track down the actual novel that's based on, that would be great too, because you can get kind of more overall sense of what it's about.
sure.
Maybe it may not be as supportive as you may think, that and it reads pretty good. I've enjoyed it. I feel like it was a top read for sure. It was on top of
Cool.
my list. It remained there.
Well, okay, and I'm not no judgment over. I'm just curious, kind of thing, because
Yeah,
I don't have it in my hands, and it's it can be a dicey, sort of a thing.
subject.
So I'm just curious to see how how that kind of stuff is handled and whatnot. But yeah, um, so cool. Well, and those are Titan books, right? Are those the hard case kind?
Yes,
Those
Titan.
Okay,
Yes, Titan.
cool, cool. Alrighty.
But I mean, I had one more book I could tell if you don't mind. It's another
No, yeah,
Titan book.
cool. No,
Okay, it's my last one. I said it was my last one, but it's really this is the last. This is the very last one. It's non Titan one. Is Rivers of London, and this is the Black Mold series, and this is issue 4. I really love this cover because it has an ice cream truck on there.
right.
But yeah, this was it's again a detective meets magic kind of series, and so we have this one detective who specializes or is somewhat more an apprentice of some sorts under this one chief that kind of hands off to him various cases involving magic. And in this particular series, we have this black mold that is able to kind of like attack people. Like it grows and it causes suffering and pain and anxiety and depression in people. It makes them just really just it just makes them in a very, I guess, puts them in a bad state where they're just really ready to just end it all. And so we kind of find out the origins of this black mold. Apparently, it's the reason why the black mold even exists is due to the fact that this one, I guess, jazz blues singer, he died in a horrible fashion, and I guess the building that he died in was already inhabited by black mold. But he was he was really into voodoo, and so somehow his spirit mixed in with the magic and stuff like that produced this black mold that attacks people and kind of preys on them on their deepest insecurities and kind of turns it in on themselves. And so that's pretty much the origin of this. I didn't know where it was going. I mean, because I just been reading black mold and kind of wondering, okay, when they're going to explain why this black mold exists and why it does what it does. And it took a little while. It took up to issue 4 for us to realize what it was. But once it got there, I was like, oh my goodness, okay, this sounds really cool. And the fact that it has voodoo involved in it, I was like, yeah, that's even better because I love voodoo. so, so now that they have it in here, it's like, cool.
Black mold.
But yeah. But again, Titan's always putting out some really cool stuff. They have some really good books that are coming out very soon. That we'll be seeing come out for Forever War, which I'm really excited about. The Anno Dracula.
Yeah, I ordered that, so I'm gonna be getting that.
Yeah, and then hopefully I read a few interviews and because I was like after Hard Case Crime, after this reassignment, I'm like, well, this is coming out, we need more Hard Case Crime, I want more. So I was scouring the internet for more information on what else is coming out as far as the Hammer comics and as well as the Hard Case Crime. And so I know that they're going to be doing the for the Hammer comics after the Mummy wraps up, which is going to be for the trades to be offered for this solicits. They're going to actually be offering another one for the Hammer comics under the Dracula. So we're going to see that one come out as well. Not the Anno Dracula, but another Dracula Hammer. And then we're going to see for Hard Case Crime a few other adaptations of some other novels. So I'm really excited. to see that. But I like how when you read the back matter, they kind of do like interviews, or they'll show more advertisements for other things that are coming out, and so that's always nice, you know. Makes you kind of pay more attention to the back stuff.
Right. In the comments, Gordon Vidal is asking if he asked Forever War ? The Joe Hadleman's novel. Is that what it is? An adaptation of that?
Yes. Joe Haldeman's. Adaptation of Joe Haldeman's. So yeah, I'm really excited about that because they had some really wonderful covers. It was so hard to just buy one. And they also have Sky Doll, which is originally a French space opera that has now been translated with Titan. So that's another one I'm really excited about, and it's another one that I had a hard time just picking. But Sky Doll is another one. I mean, anything with space opera, I'm down for it. So I picked that one up as well.
Oh, right on.
So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. A lot of adaptations. World War X is another one I'm reading, and I know there's another one that I've been really enjoying. But yeah, there's just tons of good titles besides the licensed stuff, which I don't really read. I mean, I read every now and then Doctor Who or Torchwood, but I'm still a little confused on Torchwood since I haven't watched the show. So, but
alrighty. I think we're done with books and whatnot. Anything else that's pressing that we feel like we want to talk about?
I think that's about it.
Okay.
I have no other news.
Awesome. Well, we'll call it a night then. Thanks for coming on talking books through us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you. Yes, and thank you for everybody who's been watching along the way, that's commented in the comments, and anybody who watches this after fact, always appreciated. And we'll probably be back next week too. I mean, I've got comics to read, so I'm sure I'll be here talking comics.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great one, everybody. Good night.